Good evening and welcome once again to our second City Council meeting of this year. As usual, I'm very happy to see many of you that came back from the last meeting. I'm hoping, the number of people participating this evening is much smaller than the last time, so everyone will be able to talk. But once again, I'm going to ask you to please adhere to the 2.5 minutes so that we can conduct our business within the time frame that we have set up. I would like to ask everyone to stand up for a moment of silent meditation. I would like to ask State Rep Marcos Devers to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Council Vasquez. Council LaPlante.
Here.
Council Toomey.
Here.
Council Reyes.
Present.
Council Almonte.
Present.
Council Aquino.
Present.
Council Bernal. Council Vice President Alvarez Rodriguez.
Present.
And Council President Maldonado.
Present. The first, we don't have the minutes for last week's meeting, so we are going to skip that, and we're going to go right into public participation. Again, when you come to the podium, please identify yourself with your name, address. You are going to get a first bell indicating that you're getting close to your 2.5 minutes, and then you're going to get a second bell indicating that you have finished with your 2.5 minutes. So please adhere to those requirements. The first person that I would like to recognize is Mr. Malley.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable members. Mayor Rivera campaign promise of the Safe Florence only possible you as our elected official and Mayor Rivera's support of our police department and the senior officers union. Our police department under impeccable leadership of Honorable Chief Fitzpatrick has done excellent job to protect our citizens, stand up for our police officers and support their union. Our city has been so great because of hard working of DPW workers, a few workers, and the best leadership. Our DPW workers are the best in the nation. We, the citizen, demand of you support our DPW workers and their wonderful leadership. Fire after fire, our brave firefighters sacrifice their safety so our citizens be safe. We, the citizen, demand of you and Mayor Rivera support our firefighters and the union. Our public school, with the leadership of Honorable Superintendent Raleigh, moving forward, turnaround plan is working, had positive changes in our public school. Citizens support our teachers and their union. Our teachers, they must know 83,000 citizens are behind them. In a few months of term of your office, we the citizen demand of you support our police department and the senior officers union and our firefighters and our DPW workers. Thank you.
The next person in line is Dick Russell.
Good evening, Council. His name's Dick Russell. I reside at 34 Cross Street in the city. I see where you may have decided to follow the guidelines for public participation, limiting us to 2 minutes as stated in the July 21st, 1998 guidelines. I have no problem staying within the 2 minutes. Others may not, as the city does have a lot of issues that need to be brought to the Council's attention. 15 people, 2 minutes equals 30 minutes for a population of 75,000 to express themselves to their elected officials. Well, rules are rules. If I have to follow them, then you should. Be nice if the meetings had started exactly at 7, or are you claiming executive privilege on the starting time? My humble opinion, that word executive is starting to pop up far too frequently in this room. Remember the last line of the guidelines. It says, guidelines, subject to change only by vote of the full council at a regularly scheduled council meeting. I guess that means you can't executive privilege these rules. It would be nice if you could appear at the appointed hour for the various council meetings. Next, when is the problem with the recording system for the council meetings going to be resolved? How long has it been since the citizens have been able to watch replays on cable TV of the council meeting? It's funny that the recording system starts to malfunction during contract negotiations with Comcast, also at the same time that some of the councilors are trying to push agenda item 395-14 past the unsuspecting public. What are you planning on doing with the agenda item 395-14? I see it at the bottom of table business. Are you going to pull it off the table when the council chamber is virtually empty and try to sleaze some sort of resolution through? Not that it matters. All the public hearings have been held on it. I guess the old Tremolos song, "Silence is Golden," should be playing when you untable that item. Thank you for the time.
The next person in line is Dick Blatchford.
Good evening. Dick Blatchford, 3 Harrison Street. Are some of you serious calling for a vote of no confidence in this administration? The previous administration violated so many issues in 4 years, there are too many to count, along with making us the laughingstock of the state. And not one of you called for a vote of no confidence. The previous administration fired a lot of good, competent people and replaced them with political hacks and sent this city into a tailspin for 4 years. It'll take us 2 years to recover. The former mayor did not win election for a second term. He did not win election for state rep's position. The people do not want him. So what do? You get a few radio talk show hosts and loyal followers of the previous administration to disrupt the city's progress. If you're going to have a vote of no confidence, it really should it be against the leadership of the city council. So here's a suggestion. Put on your big boy pants and take the elevator to the 3rd floor and knock on the door of the mayor and ask what you could do to help make this city better, rather than continue to tear it down as you've been instructed. This latest effort has been clearly orchestrated by the former administration, and some of you bought into it. Stop being puppets and do the job you were elected to do, representing the people of the city of Lawrence and not the former administration. Remember, this vote of no confidence is non-binding and means absolutely nothing. However, your vote of no confidence will be coming in November. And I would be willing to bet a number of you will get that no confidence vote, and that vote will be binding. Thank you.
The next person in line is Kathy Runch.
Kathy Runge, 32 Drake Street. We all want our elected officials to obey the rules. So I'm going to read a few rules from the rules of the City Council. Rule 4 is duties of the President. The President of the City Council shall take the chair at the hour fixed or to which the council has adjourned or been called together, call the members to order, cause the roll to be called, and on the appearance of a quorum, proceed to business. This means at 7 p.m., the council president should sit down in that seat. Everybody present should sit down in their seats. The meeting should come to order, there should be a roll call, and you should sit and wait for a quorum to appear, and the minute the quorum appears, you should start business. If people are missing business or something, let that be noted. Also, the president may express his opinion on any subject under debate only by leaving the chair, and in such case, he shall not resume the chair while the question is pending. Then I'll skip a little bit. The presiding officer, however, may state facts and give opinions on questions of order without leaving his place. This means we shouldn't be hearing opinions from the council president while an item is being debated, unless the president leaves the chair and hands a gavel over to the vice president. I assume we should not be hearing any opinions from anyone when there's no motion on the floor. Then we have Rule 7H. The members of the council shall not leave their place on adjournment until the presiding officer declares the council adjourned. Well, that's a good rule. But I think maybe it should be expanded a little bit because, I'm pretty sure the rule doesn't mean that it's okay for counselors to be getting up and down constantly out of their seats throughout the meeting, but when it comes time to adjourn, they should sit down. I don't think it means that. I think maybe you should strengthen that rule a little bit. And as far as parliamentary rules go, you should have some book as a backup aside from these rules of the City Council. I mean, I have asked and I've gotten nothing. It should be stated we have a right to know what rules we're following. And take the no confidence vote. Take it, get it over with, take it. I don't care how you vote, you'll have to live with it. We have a right to know when it's going to be taken and have it be taken then. Thank you.
The next person in line is Joe D'Amico.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councilors. I bring to you a couple of good things. One, DPW did a great job when we had this new slick ice out there. They were out there at 4 o'clock in the morning doing every street in the city. I drove picking up and delivering people, and all the streets were clear. The next item I have brought up is public participation or public hearings. Prior to a month ago, we had a public hearing, not in this chamber, but at the school committee building, where they brought up the thing about smoking. There was 85 people, there were 90 people there. 5 people for, 85 people against passing the resolution of raising the age limit. They were the mom and pop stores of the city. They already had made the decision that they were going to act on that. If that is the case, why do we need a city council? Each individual board can make their own rules and regulation. We've had other issues with other department heads that made fee changes. Again, it didn't go through the city council. All I want is everything should follow through the charter, back to the city council. If there's a public meeting and the majority is against the plan, at least postpone and put it either on the ballot or postpone it to the next meeting and see if there's any other information can be brought up. Thank you.
The next and last person in line is Mark LaPlante.
Council Presidents, members of the council, I want to make this real brief. I really don't think that we did a very good job with respect to the executive session voting into that last week. I think we need to take steps to be able to correct that. I talked to the council president. I think he's well on his way to correcting those. Talked to the city attorney's office as well. I think as early as tomorrow, they're going to give us guidance on what to do to make the corrections so that what we need to do is the people that are behind me and the rest of the folks that we represent need to know that we're working in transparency, that they know what it is exactly that we're talking about. And I think that we should learn a very valuable lesson from what took place last week. I didn't feel comfortable with that, and I hope that we can make those amends and correct that and give some confidence back to the people that we represent that we're doing things in the right way. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item in line is a resolution by Councilor Alvarez Rodriguez.
Hello, my fellow councilors. I want to thank you for signing this resolution. This young man, Sharif Cobb, is an excellent example of the jewels that we have in Lawrence. As a Lawrence High School graduate, he was the valedictorian. It turns out he was in my class. As you know, the other hat that I wear is being an adjunct faculty member at Merrimack College. And he took my course, and I found out that he was a Lawrencian. He's on the dean's list in the honor roll at Merrimack College, plus he volunteers at the middle school here. So on top of all the things, and volunteers and helps his parent with a business that they've had for 15 years? 65 years they've had a business here in Lawrence. So it's my pleasure to read this resolution for my excellent student I have great pride in. Here it goes. Be it be known that we, the members of the City Council of Lawrence, Massachusetts, by and through this resolution, hereby recognize Sharif Cobb for his good works and efforts in post-secondary education and dedication of family, and hereby states as follows. Whereas Sharif was born in Lawrence and is the son of Shamal and, wasn't it Gamal? Jamal, we need to correct Jamal and Lynn Sharif, attending the public schools of Lawrence at the Hennessy School, kindergarten, elementary and middle school at the A.B. Bruce School, annex, and Lawrence High School, where he studied in the Academy of Math, Science, Technology during all 4 years. He graduated with a 4.7878 GPA. You could have paused to that. And was named campus valedictorian with his graduating class in 2013. Whereas Sharif's focus and commitment to academic excellence was demonstrated early during his education, taking 7 AP classes and 8 AP exams, including AP Physics, advocating and bringing the virtual high school program to the Lawrence school system, and achieving academic recognition during his junior year as Best Graduate Student poster in MATLAB Computing and Modeling, analysis of weather data, a project competition sponsored by UMass Lowell. Whereas Sharif is presently in his junior year at Merrimack College in North Andover, MA with a major in health sciences, earning Dean's List honors in his first 3 semesters with future plans to study medicine and become a physician. Whereas Sharif is a proud Lawrentian, giving back to the community by completing service learning and experiential learning hours at his former middle school, tutoring pupils in Lawrence, volunteering with the Spicket River cleanup in Lawrence each year, and assisting senior residents at Edgewood Community in North Andover to help them to become computer savvy with the use of iPads and email to increase communication and for personal enjoyment. Whereas Sharif also makes himself available to tutor classmates at Merrimack College, sharing his knowledge and ability in mathematics. For the second consecutive year, he is part of the Mac Gives Back program at Merrimack College and volunteers at IMEC, a medical supply warehouse in North Andover. Whereas Sharif attributes his academic success and ability to love, care, and attention provided by his mother and father, who have taught the life lessons of personal responsibility, honesty, hard work, and fairness by example through the family business at Richards Furniture in Lawrence, where he still helps out. Whereas we, the members of the Lawrence City Council, hereby recognize Sharif Cobb and hereby set our hand and cause the seal of the city of Lawrence to be affixed this, the 20th day of January of 2015. Thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for recognizing what I do. It's become part of me. You know, I try my best in anything I do. You know, the resources are available. This is a great city. It's been great to me, and so there's no excuse for me not to be great back. So thank you very much.
You make us very proud. Congratulations.
Congratulations, proud of you. Don't hold it against Ask for Roger.
We will continue with the agenda, committee's report. Madam Chair of the Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Council President. Document 40114 is the appointment to the Human Rights Commission of Ms. Judith Fernandez. And this is for, I believe, a 3-year appointment, and she is a new appointment to the Human Rights Commission. Ms. Judith? Thank you. Your name and address for the committee, please?
Yes, hi, my name is Judith Preston Fernandez, 92 Everett Street, Lawrence, Mass.
And it was sent up with a favorable recommendation.
Second. There's a motion on the floor, and it has been properly seconded. Are there any questions for Judith? Yes.
Thank you,
Councilor.
Council President. Hi, Ms. Hernandez, or is it is Hernandez, ¿verdad?
It's Fernandez, Preston
Oh,
Fernandez.
Fernandez. Perdona. Could you tell us a little bit about what motivates you to volunteer and to be a part of the city through the Human Rights Commission?
Sure. I was born and raised in Lawrence. I went to attended all the Lawrence schools. I recently returned back to the area 6 years ago, but moved to Lawrence about 1.5 years ago. And I just wanted to get active in the city and to get volunteered. So I asked Mayor Rivera, what can I do for the city in order to get involved? And he had Lisa contact me with some committees, and I feel as an African-American, plus with the Spanish last name, that the Human Rights Committee was the best for me to be on.
Well, thank you so much for volunteering, and anything that I can do to help, feel free to call.
I will, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other question, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mrs. Fernandez.
Thank you.
Thank you. Document 115, Madam Chair of the Ordinance Committee.
Thank you, Council President. On Thursday evening, January 15th, the Ordinance Committee met We reviewed document number 1-15, which was a transient vendor license requested by Rafael Gonzalez. This is a renewal of an existing license, and Mr. Gonzalez is residing at 48 Brook Street in Lawrence. The paperwork was all in order, and it came up from the subcommittee with a unanimous favorable recommendation to approve the renewal, and to make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor, and it has been properly seconded. Are there any questions or comments? If there is none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Continue, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President. At that same January 15th meeting, there was a request for renewal of a transient vendor license of a Carmen M. Baez residing at 73 May Street in Lawrence. The paperwork was all in order for this renewal, and it came up from the subcommittee with a unanimous favorable recommendation to renew the license, and to make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any comments or questions? If there is none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Continue, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President. At the ordinance committee level, Mr. Dan McCarthy from the Planning Department appeared, as did several members of the local Lawrence clergy, regarding document number 326-14, was a clergy parking permit. There's draft ordinance language in our packages, but basically, it allows each church in the city to have up to 2 vehicles for clergy on clergy time. They will have the ability to park at meters or other places where they might not be restricted times for maximum of up to 4 hours for a funeral, and then most other times will be up to a 2-hour use. Came up from the subcommittee with a unanimous favorable recommendation to order public hearing and have the language reviewed by the city attorney, and to make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second to order a public hearing on document 326-14. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Public hearing.
Yes. If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Continue, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council President. Document number 376-14 was a handicap parking request at 102 Bailey Street, apartment number 1, requested by a Zomira Blanco. Officer Gene Scanlon from the Lawrence Police Department did review the site, and he made a favorable recommendation for granting a handicap parking spot at this location. It came up for the subcommittee for the unanimous favorable recommendation to order a public hearing and any requisite language from the city attorney, and to make that in the form of a motion.
Motion has been made to order a public hearing on document 376-14, and it has been properly seconded. Are there any questions or comments? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Continue, Madam Chair.
Document number 360-14 was a parking review on Ferry Street from Prospect Street to East Haverhill Street. This was put on the agenda by Councilor Almonte. Officer Scanlon did appear at the subcommittee level. He was recommending making a no parking area in this zone, and it came up from the subcommittee with a unanimous favorable recommendation to order public hearing and any requisite language for that no parking area, and to make that in the form of a motion.
So moved.
Motion has been made to order a public hearing on document 360-14. It has been properly seconded. Any comments or questions? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Continue, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Document number 393-14 was a handicap parking at 64 Ware Street. This was requested by Naturo Perez and sponsored by Councilor LaPlante. There's a placard on file. It came up, Officer Scanlon gave back a positive review and recommendation, and it came up from the subcommittee with a unanimous favorable recommendation to order public hearing and any requisite language from the city attorney, and to make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
There's a motion to order a public hearing on document 393-14, and it has been properly seconded. Are there any questions or comments? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Madam Chair of the Ordinance Committee. We will now move on with document 343-14. Mr. Chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Document 343-14 is a TIF proposal for 1 Marston Street, and it was placed on the agenda by Mr. Evo Vargas. I would like to make a motion to approve this TIF.
There's a motion on the floor to approve document 343-14.
Discussion.
It has been properly seconded. Discussion.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the Budget and Finance Subcommittee meeting, we had Mr. Vargas present, as well as the petitioner for this particular TIF. For members of the audience, a TIF is a tax increment financing agreement that is made between the City of Lawrence and the petitioner. In this case, this will be a 10-year TIF that will commence July 1st, 2015, and will end June 30th of 2025. I know Mr. Vargas is here in case he might like to add or anyone has any additional questions. Okay.
Mr. Vargas? Mr. Vargas, let me start off with questions. This company, what is going to be the business of this company?
So the proposal that's before you, or the TIF that's before you, is on behalf of a 75,000 square foot medical office building. The intent is to take down and demolish the existing structure, what's known as the Ralph Pill building, and construct a brand new, state-of-the-art 75,000 square foot medical office building.
It's a medical office building?
Correct.
And is that going to be associated at all with any of the hospitals located?
So the intent of the developer is to take that property, develop it, and make it marketable. So there is a possibility that they may be able to attract hospitals within the area or outside of the area. But the intent is to create a top-of-the-line, brand new building and market it to potential tenants.
Do they have any projected tenants that they are in discussion right now to bring in?
From what I understand, they have been in conversations with a few tenants. They're not in a position to disclose those tenants, but they're medical institutions.
Okay. Councilors? Yes.
Yes,
Councilor
thank you,
Alvarez.
Council President, through you. Mr. Vargas, for the benefit of our constituents and the audience at home, could you please tell us what amount of a discount
Sure.
this group is getting each year, how exactly it's going to work?
Yeah, so I'll, before I do that, I'll just take a few steps back and kind of describe the process, what it means, and the types of value that we're going to get. So a tax incremental finance agreement, essentially, it allows the city to enter on a schedule of tax relief on potential development. So if the property owner buys the property for, let's say, $1 million, and the value is at $1 million, they're able to make improvements to that, and let's say they add $2 million in value, and the property is assessed at $3 million now, we're able to continue to tax them at the $1 million mark, giving them benefit of not being taxed on the additional $2 million. So there's going to be a baseline of taxes or assessed value that we will continue to tax them on, and they will receive some relief on that, as noted on the agreements before you. So the developer, and I'm going to be off with the exact numbers, and you could ask the developers here as well, and you could ask them the question. But there's going to be upwards of somewhere between $25 and $27 million of investment onto this property, which is a substantial investment. We worked with our assessor in the city, and he made a recommendation on what he thought the property would be assessed at with these improvements. And even though it's $25 million, you would suspect that the value of the property would be $25 million or $27 million. But because of the comps and because of the market that we're in, he suggested that the property would likely be assessed somewhere in the vicinity of $7.5 million. So the baseline value now is $792,000, and whatever the gap is between $792,000 and $7.5 million is the amount that we're going to be providing him with some tax relief.
So plainly speaking, the people that you're working with now to help develop this project will be paying some amount of taxes. So it's not that they're not going to be paying any taxes at all.
So
they will be paying that base number, which you said was 700.
So that's the assessed value. That's not the tax amount. It's just the assessed value of the property as it stands today, and they will be paying the commercial tax rate on that $792,000.
Right. So any additional money that is added on to increase the tax, that's the amount that they won't have to pay until 2025.
Well, there's a sliding scale, so
Okay.
they'll be able to pay some of it, so the first few years, they'll be paying 95% or 5%
Right,
of
that's what
that.
I was asking, the 90%, and then,
So for the first 3 years, they'll get relief of 95% of that value, and then it'll scale down 85, 75, 60, so on and so forth, as notated on this sheet here that you guys should all have.
okay. So some of the tax increases that are either made because we increase taxes or either made because the value
Right.
of the property has grown, they will be paying bits of it gradually until they're paying the exact amount in 2025.
Exactly. So if you look at the schedule, I assume a 2.5% increase in natural growth, and it may be more than that, it may be less than that. So they'll still have to pay whatever that baseline increases. So if that 792 increases 2% for the next X amount of years, they'll have to pay that amount. But the difference between the baseline and that total value, they'll get some relief on. But you're right.
Now, in addition to this discount, this TIF, the project or the owners of the project will also be able to benefit from hiring Laurentians, because it's my understanding that they can get some discounts based on hiring people from here. That's
So-
what's the name, urban renewal, what?
Well, with this particular applicant, the applicant will likely not have all of the jobs in that building. So when we put the number, the jobs number is there listed. That job number is reflective of what that person through their payroll, what they will have on the books. So they could only account for what they create and what's under their payroll. It's likely that there will be other tenants on there that will also create jobs, and we can't make assumptions about the exact amount of jobs that those tenants will have, but the applicant has a base set number of jobs that he will create, and that's what we're going with for the agreement.
So an incentive for people to rent property, right, to rent parts of the units, would be that if they hire Laurentians, they will be eligible for these payroll tax discounts.
So it's property tax and property and personal tax, but like, I'm sure you remember the previous TIF agreement, and we make recommendations on the number of jobs that stay here in the city. We hope that they commit to that number, but again, the jobs that we'll create, it's say, say hospital XYZ comes into Lawrence.
So the property owners, let me just make sure, the property owners, right, the owners of this project, if they're aware of the number of Laurentians that are hired by their tenants, they would be eligible for the tax discount?
Well, the agreement would be with the property owner, with the landlord, so it wouldn't be with the individual tenants in the building.
I understand, but if the tenant is hiring Laurentians and under the urban renewal project, they would be able to benefit had they been the owners. Does that transfer to the owners? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand, but I'm not sure if it works that way. So the intent would be that the property owner is going to have enough savings on taxes so they could pass through that savings to the tenants. So they could be competitive with other medical office buildings outside of the city. So if
All right, so if they are eligible through their tenant, right, for that discount, they say they can then in turn give the benefit to their tenant
Right.
by allowing certain discounts or not raising rents to a unaffordable
That's correct.
Okay.
That's the thought process.
level. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure people understand it's not just the benefit of the TIF, which is, you know, an important idea in terms of attracting new investors to the city, and hopefully creating new jobs. But there are also other benefits that come through the urban renewal project. And, you know, if you can maybe talk to people about the urban renewal project, basically, very quickly, it's just a federal status that allows us, because of the economic disadvantage that we're in, to incite and motivate people to hire more people that live in Lawrence, so that we can tackle the unemployment rate, and so we can develop and become economically more progressive.
Right.
Okay. I thank you very much. I just want to make sure people understand fully the extent of this vote, where it extends to, and thank you very much for answering
Counselor.
my questions.
Mr. Toomey?
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Evening, Abel.
Evening.
Just three things I'd like to point out, rather ask or address. First of all, we just received this packet tonight. If anything like this in the future happens, if we could get it early enough so that we can really look at it and investigate it, it would be a big help to us.
Yeah, I apologize for that. Members, I'm sorry, we probably just handed it over to the members of the Budget and Finance Committee. So I'm sorry it didn't get through to you.
No, we just received it this evening.
I apologize for that.
Secondly,
Mr. President, in response to that, we did receive the documentation a couple of weeks ago. I know that not just members of the committee, but Lillian was asked to provide it, and it was in all of our mailboxes. In defense of Mr. Vargas,
I mean, we put it back in the mailbox just to be sure that you folks had it, but apologies for that.
see, things like that have happened in the past, and it's very difficult for us to sit here and try and grasp everything that's happening.
Sure.
On the same night we have to vote on it.
No, I understand.
Secondly, this property is located at Marsden Street. Now, it says here has been purchased with the intent to build a state-of-the-art medical office building. If I understand things, the process is going to have to go before the planning board.
Yeah,
This has not happened yet, is that correct?
Yeah, so I can speak to that. So a few things have to happen in order for this project to go forward. The first thing that had to happen was that they had to go before the Historic Commission, because there is a building on site there that was the former Russell Paper Mill site. So there is a building there with substantial historic value. So we had an opportunity to go before the Historic Commission. They did grant the applicant a demolition waiver, and the developer is committed to commit to everything that the Historic Commission requested based on reclamation of wood beams and the stone and so on and so forth, and make it part of their design on the lobby and other things. So I had to do that. Because it's close to a river, it also had to go before the Conservation Commission, and we just left there now, right before getting here. And the third thing we'll have to do is get a site plan approval through the planning board.
Okay.
So this is one of four boards or four government institutions that they'll have to be before they're able to go forward.
Right. You also have included in the packet here estimated values, local tax incentives.
Correct.
I wonder if you just walk me through all these statements here, if you would. Let's take, just as an example, the first item, first line, FY16.
Yeah, so
The municipal tax rate's 33.7, right, per thousand. What is that incremental assessed value?
So the assumption is that if it's worth $7.5 million today, next year when assessments might go up, so we're assuming the assessed values will go up 2.5%.
The assessed value of the land?
Of the land, just like natural growth or of any property, whether it be a home or a commercial building, there's a likelihood that the value will go up year after year.
Okay. The projected annual property tax is approximately $226,000 based on that $6.7 million?
Correct.
And 95% of that would would exempt $214,000 of it, right? Leaving a total of $11,000?
Correct.
Now, the current assessed value is $792,000? That's the current assessed value of the land?
So that's the assessed value of the land and the structures on the land.
Okay, and the taxes then is $26,000?
Correct. And again, these are estimates. So as it stands now, the tax bill is in the vicinity of $26,000.
Okay, so the total taxes will be the sum of those two, the $11,000 and the $26,000?
Correct.
Right? Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
All right.
Mr. LaPlante?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want some clarification. It's my understanding, through discussion with the city assessor's office, that the assessed value is actually $1.1 million. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page on that.
Well, when that's the new assessed value. So when they submitted their letter of intent some months ago, that was before the new valuations for fiscal year 2016. Yeah, 2016. So prior to them submitting, prior to the value going up, it was 792 when they submitted the letter of intent.
Well, again, it's my understanding that it's for FY 2015, which is, we're in the middle of that right now, the assessed value, and I have a placard here, a card from the assessor's office
You're right.
also that shows that it's $1.1 million as opposed to the 792.
Correct.
That baseline value is important because that's what the jumping off point is, right?
You're right.
From where we get the TIF, whether it's 95% or whatever the percentage is each year going forward. So I want us, before we take a vote on that tonight, to make sure that we're on the same page of that before we start taking a vote. And we need to clarify that, because that's important.
You're right. The agreement that we have on the table with the developer is with a baseline value of $792,000. And I can't make that determination on my own. We have another party in this on the other side of the negotiation to have a conversation with.
Well, let me say this. There may be other people who want to speak. Oh, I'm going to be making a motion to table so we can clarify that at some point and make sure that we get the right numbers, because it's a difference that we need
Absolutely.
to clarify. So, but having said that, I just want to make a comment just in general about the project. It's exciting that we're having this kind of facility on that part of the city. I mean, with the expansion of the hospital, and now we're starting to see some dominoes falling in that area, some good dominoes that are bringing in kind of medical establishments. I know that the individual who is applying for this and the owner of this has the Lawrence roots. Now, that's the critical component of anything, but it's good to know that he has that and he wants to make an impact and a big difference in the city of Lawrence, and this is where he wants to invest his money. So I know that's not my district. I know it's in the Prospect Hill district. They are lucky to have that kind of commerce, that kind of progress taking place over there. And I'll make a motion to table in a little bit so we can get that. But I want to commend the counselor and also the administration for their work on this.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to give you the Councilor Aquino and then Councilor Montes.
At the subcommittee meeting, I requested a change of the percentage by the dollar amount, and I don't see that in our package.
Sorry?
At the subcommittee meeting, I asked you about the percentage, that if that could be changed by the amount of money, the amount of money that they're gonna be saving.
Do you mean the schedule?
No, I asked you about the 95%, the dollar amount, how much it's equal to that 95%.
Right, and so that's why I brought this document.
But I don't have it in my package.
You don't have this here?
Yeah, this one is part of the package.
I brought this
Oh,
because
it's outside
you
the
requested
package.
it.
It's it.
It's today's packet, what we got today.
So I
Not on the
brought this
package
because you
today.
asked for that. So it has a schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Orse?
Yes, I am.
Councilor Montes?
Thank you. Thank you, Council President. I would also agree with Councilor LaPlante on this one to table the item after this discussion, because if it's The property value is worth $1.1 million. All of this needs to be changed, and we need to vote on that $1.1 million. Number one. Number two, are these proper, well, how many units are gonna be in this existing place when it goes up?
There's no way there's no real way of giving you an exact number.
So we don't even have like a structured building, we don't have an architectural,
Yes.
plan?
Yes.
So if we don't, so then how, do we not know how many spaces are gonna be available?
Maybe I could assist,
Yeah, I could have the developer come, he could give you a sense or
Number
answer the
one,
question.
and then the other thing too, it makes no sense to me that someone would be putting $25 million into something that is never gonna be assessed at that much. So I wanna know, are these gonna be rented or sold?
From what I understand, he will be a landlord and he will attract tenants to come into his building at a profitable margin. That's my understanding.
Which then in turn, we're given a tip on something that it's going, I understand that. But my thing is that why would you be putting $25 million into something that's only gonna be worth $7 million? It makes no sense to me.
Well, the reason why, I mean, the cost of development, the brick and mortar portion and the construction and the engineering and all of those things, they're gonna cost the same in Lawrence as they cost in Boston. In Boston, that same exact building is gonna be worth a lot more because of the market that it's in. This building will happen to be in Lawrence, Massachusetts, where the values just they're not the same. But you still wanna have that type of quality construction and that type of quality project in the city, even if it's not worth that based on assessed value. So, you know, we're in a market where we're in the greater Boston area, so the cost of construction is high, it's not low. And if you want these types of facilities and you want to attract the tenants that the developer wants to attract, you have to compete with those other markets. And because those markets have higher assessed value generally, we're gonna be at a disadvantage. And that's why these types of agreements are important, because we have to compete with those markets that get a lot more bang for their buck on their construction costs and their developments. So that's why these types of agreements are important.
I think that between now and when we untable this business, I should have a lot more questions, because right now I'm really confused as to why you would spend so much money on something that you really are supposedly not gonna get the value out of. It just behooves me that someone would actually put all this money into something that's gonna be worth only $7 million if you're putting in so much money. To $25 million to 7, that's a big jump. It's a huge jump. And, you know, there has to be some other underlining issues that we're not knowing and listening of, because there usually is. So before, like, other issues that happen within the city. So therefore, I will be seconding the motion to table this business, because there's a lot of information lots of question marks underneath this issue for me. Thank you.
Point of
Councilor
order.
Almeida?
Point of order, Council President. The developer is here, couldn't he answer that? Because that could be information that we could take back with us and reflect on. So, could he answer that question that the counselor has?
Do you,
Hold on a second. Yeah.
Through you, Council President, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Alex Lopez. I am the owner-developer of 1 Marston Street. I have a history here. We're a family of immigrants. We immigrated in the early 70s. My father started his career here in Lawrence. He started his career, we lived at 129 Garden Street back in the 70s. We were here for 2 years, and my father got the opportunity at Lawrence General Hospital to increase his capacity to be a physician that has turned around his career and has come back to Lawrence, has been working in Lawrence faithfully for over 30 years at 101 Amesbury Street. His sacrifice and his persistence in this community has allowed me to have the opportunity to be before you here today at this level. To answer your question as to why would I want to spend $25 million in your backyard, I'll tell you why. Because this community gave me the opportunity, and I'd like to give something back. I don't need to spend the money here. I don't. There are other communities where I could spend the money. But I want to do it here. We got to start here. I want to bring it full circle. I was given an opportunity, we flourished, and it only seems fair that I bring that opportunity back to the community. So to answer that question, that's the reason why. The valuation of $7 million that Abel Vargas was talking about was based on city-assessed values. Now, clearly, there is a small profit to be made, but I've had to cut this project down to the bone to be able to make it work in Lawrence. To answer a question about tenants, I'm speaking to 2 large institutions who are very interested in coming to Lawrence. I'm also speaking to a national coffee house that would be coming to Lawrence, is very interested as well. So in terms of will people come here, there's a tipping point that is about to happen on Marston Street. But I can't do it alone. I can't afford it alone. The reason why I'm here before you is because I need the city's help. Without the city's help, this project goes away, goes elsewhere. And that would be a real shame. A real shame. I would hate to see that happen. Now, I am thankful that I am a perfect example of the American dream. Again, an immigrant family from a third world country comes here at great sacrifice, not knowing the language, beating every single odd, dealing with racism, dealing with all sorts of different issues of our ethnic background that were, and I'm sure some of you here felt that. But to be able to stand here before you today, tonight, as a quote-unquote success story, I'm here to give back. I need your help. And if I don't get the help, then that's a shame, because the real losers here will be the community of Lawrence, the people in your backyard. You know, I want to work with you. I don't want to work against you. Let me show you what I want to do. Let's see the poster boards, please.
What happened? No, it's good, and I like the because that's what we need.
So for you back here at home, this is what I'm proposing. This is what Marston Medical is going to be. This is a Class A medical office building. It's 142,000 square feet of parking and medical office space. I've got on the top floor a designated space for 5 surgical ORs, so we have an outpatient surgical clinic. I have met with the leadership of Lawrence General Hospital. I've met with their top producing surgeons. They all say they need this. Though Lawrence General is expanding, their net effect in ORs is only a +1. At the same time that my building comes online, if I get this approval, Lawrence General will come online, effectively doubling the surgical capacity of the local hospital. Now, I got to tell you, I've been speaking to 4 other hospitals in Boston. I have not hired a real estate broker. I have kept it close and to the heart. And I've been waiting to have a conversation with LGH. And LGH has come to the table. Now, I've told them very, very honestly, these are the numbers that I have. I'm cutting it to the bone. I want to give this opportunity first to the hospital that gave my father the opportunity to become the physician that he is here today. If you want to see my dad, just go down to 101 Amesbury Street. He's right there. He's been there since 1986, seeing everyone, Medicaid, Medicare. He turns the door, he doesn't turn anyone away from medical services, whether or not they can pay or they can't pay. You come into Dr. Lopez's office, and Dr. Lopez says, where does it hurt? Not, where's the money? So it's quite simple. It's quite simple. That man has given me an enormous opportunity. I'm doing it in his honor, and I'm honoring my family and my heritage by doing this here for the Latino community, for every community member in Lawrence. And this tipping point is going to bring the talent to Lawrence. You build it, and they will come. This building is a Class A LEED certified building. I'm targeting gold LEED certification. Okay? What we've done here is we've built a building that has covered parking, ambulatory pickup and drop-off. The top floor, this half that you see here, will be encompassed with LED lights that will be able to be lit up in the evening, showing a beacon of the jewel of the gateway of Lawrence. Definitely. So, St. Patrick's Day, that light will be green. Breast Cancer Month, that light will be pink. The 4th of July, red, white, and blue. For the Dominican Republic as well. For my country, Colombia, yellow, blue, red. Simple. We can do a variety of things, but the whole point is this. No one else sees us coming. And I speak of us in the cumulative, Lawrence. Nobody sees this sort of thing happening. Why are the people here in this area going to Boston? Why aren't they turning to Lawrence? There are excellent services here. The physicians that are here are top rate. My dad's one of them. My dad takes interns in, helps them out, teaches them the ways of the land in terms of his practice, and sends them out without anything in return. other than he's knowing that he's improving the community that he's in. So aren't we all here to do that very same thing? You elected officials as well. You guys are sacrificing, you've worked hard to be where you are today, to be able to help those in the community that can't help themselves. Allow me to do that as well. Let me help you, but I cannot do it alone. I need your vote. I need your vote.
Go ahead, Councilor.
I love your enthusiasm and of course the way you just, that's totally me. I love it. And I do, but within all of that, and I admire your value and your values of your family and coming here and all of that stuff, but beyond all of that, we just need to underline and just clarify a couple things on paper, because there's some, doubts or whatever, so everything is clear. And also, I would like to know if these parcels are gonna, or these spaces that you have available are gonna be sold, or are they gonna be rented, only because of, and I'm talking on the TIF part of the situation, only because if they're being rented, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, please clarify me, that it could happen, but if you sell them, it wouldn't be under the TIF.
Let me clarify that for you. My
that-
intention is to be an owner-occupant.
Okay.
Dr. Lopez's practice is going to be moving into this Class A medical office building. I'm doing that for my father. My intent is not to parcel off the building. My intent is to keep it as a whole. My perfect scenario is to have 4 tenants, one of which would probably be a master lease tenant, and the other 3 would be subtenants to that leaseholder. The anchor tenant has already expressed in early conversations that they would like to have the option to absorb the building, i.e. buy it. And it only makes sense. If they were to buy it, then it stays in control of that organization. Now, will that happen? I don't know. It all is predicated upon the lease rates that I'm able to quote, and those lease rates are heavily subsidized by the potential of this TIF. Mm-hmm. I'm not taking the cut for myself. Mm-hmm. I'm telling my tenants, if the city works with me, and the current administration and the counselors that I've spoken with last week in the Budget Finance Subcommittee, have all been in agreement and very supportive, this is going to work. And what's going to happen here, it allows you all to say, mira lo que está pasando en Lawrence.
Of course.
Look what's happening in Lawrence today, right? We've got a Class A, high-caliber medical office building, and this guy chose to do it here. Come see why. Mm-hmm. You mean to tell me if this building goes up, the city of Lawrence isn't going to point to it and say, Lopez over there built this building, and he's succeeding because we worked with him. It's as easy as that. Mm-hmm. It's not about, and I understand, I want to be fair with the city. The numbers that we were talking about earlier about the basis that I spoke with Abel Vargas, that number is the number that we factor into our financial model to be able to make this a tight package. If the number balloons to 1.1 or 1.2, I'm dead. It's over. I can't afford it, and I can't pass that on to my tenants. They'll say, well, okay, maybe we'll do something elsewhere, like Andover. Do you know how often it's, in the last 3 meetings I've had with the leadership, the biggest question is, should we go with Lopez and Lawrence, or should we do our own thing in Andover?
I totally hear you, and just hear me out 1 second. I've had a couple of my constituents who have now had property added to their property because the city doesn't want to, or for whatever reason, they feel that, this parcel is connected to this and it's an alleyway, XYZ or whatever, and it just got added. Boom, here you go. Here's an extra $700-800 a year, and they were never asked or ever told, this property is going to become part of your new property line, et cetera. So I understand that, you were quoted at one rate and now it's a different rate. So weren't our constituents here in our city, and some of them can't afford it. I'm just, so
Right.
you could see, the difference as to why I'm coming to where I'm, not anything to do with you personally.
Right.
But I have to respond to my constituents that are gonna be like, Sandy, damn, my property's been valued at this, and all of a sudden they threw this in my backyard and I have to pay for it.
Right.
So why shouldn't he, who has the money, and he's a developer, and I'm not?
That's
and
where you're
I'm-
mistaken. I don't have all of that money. If I had the money, I would not be wasting your time. I would not be here. I would be out putting steel in the ground yesterday. That is exactly the point. Thank you for highlighting that, because I need this in order to go forward for all of us. So walk with me. Walk with me.
And I will be holding your hand the day we put a shovel into that dirt.
Walk with me.
All
Don't
right?
trip me. I need it.
All right?
So,
Mind
counselors,
you,
I
so help
appreciate
there.
you listening to my
But
time.
then the other thing that I wanted to tell you also is, is there a way for us to at least assure some jobs for the people of the city of Lawrence who are going to go into the apprentices, nurses? We have tons of people in the nursing, that want to become, and I know them.
Counselor, I'd be
Family,
more
in my family, and myself wanting to be into that
and
field.
I'd be more than happy to explore that, but what you have to remember is what the initiatives you're talking about aren't proposals that are coming from me. I could help lubricate those proposals with the tenants that are coming in.
I think it's
I
an
can tell you
idea.
that in one of the retail spaces that we have here in the glass area, there's a space that overlooks the backyard. My mother's a local artist, and she is very interested in doing some sort of community outreach with the youth of Lawrence and helping the inner city youth, understand what art is and help guide them through art that will give them a motivational factor, a way of being able to create something that they can take pride in and feel positive about, to take all the energy that some of the youth of America today and in our community need redirection into a positive direction. So, to that end, yes. But if you're asking me, can I provide jobs through ALX Enterprises, I am proposing anywhere between 3 to 4 in property management. My construction team is going to open up the bidding to local contractors where they're qualified and appropriate. We want to spend as much money we can in this general area as this goes up. It's a give and take, and we're trying to give more than we're going to take. But before we can get there, I need this vote. It's as simple as that.
I hear you, and we're gonna do this together. There's no
Thank
doubt
you.
about that. But let's just clarify the situation on paper so that we don't have any stumbling over in the future, and let's get this project going.
Sounds fair enough. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Councilor Naida.
Yes, I received a call from Mr. Vargas today, and I would like Mr. Vargas to clarify what we spoke on the phone.
Sure. So before I answer that question, if you don't mind, when we entered into this agreement, when we negotiated the terms of this TIF agreement, it was before fiscal year 2015, and it is possible. I mean, it's a fact that the assessed values have gone up substantially, but at the point of the letter of intent, we went into agreement, myself and Mr. Lopez, on behalf of the mayor, to have a baseline of the assessed value on the day that they submitted that letter. And I want to be able to speak with developers or business people coming into the city in good faith, and so that they feel that what we're saying as a city, as a municipality that's looking for economic development, then when we say something, we mean it. And the assessed value is different today than it was the day we received that letter. But the baseline and what we spoke of was based off of that value when we received that letter of intent way before the first of the fiscal year. So with that, I'll answer Councilor Aquino's question.
Councilor Aquino, do you still have another question?
Well, he needs to clarify the question
Yeah,
that
so
I
I'll-
asked him about if could be transferred to, if they sell, if it could be transferred, or they have to come back to recertify. And the answer at that time was no. But I received a call, and I would like him to clarify that.
Yeah, so Councilor Aquino, during the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, asked the question, as she stated, if there was a transfer of ownership, will the TIF transfer with the new owner? And at the time, we said no. But after some research and talking with folks over at the state, there is a possibility of the TIF transferring. It will stay with the property, so that the development is what it is. So if it's a medical office building today, and the day after it sells, it's a medical office, the day after, then yes, the TIF will stay active, and it will go with the property. So that's the answer to the question.
I have one more question.
Sure.
Can we make adjustments to the contract that you already have, the agreement?
No, your question in the previous meeting was to get a sense of what the relief looked like. So that's why we put that together, or we had it put it together already. So I provided you with that.
So we cannot make any adjustments to it?
Again, as mentioned with the assessed value, we go out there, we talk to businesses, and we put out the best possible package that we can to make sure that they come here, and we put it before them when we negotiate it. Just a few weeks, well, actually a few months ago, the city of Haverhill negotiated a 20-year TIF with Southwick because they're going to open up a new manufacturing building. And they did that because they wanted Southwick to stay there. We lost Southwick a few years ago. So Haverhill decided we're going to do a new 20-year TIF because we want Southwick to stay in our city. And they did that because of that reason. So if we want to really attract people to come to our city, we have to be as aggressive as other communities.
Okay, so your answer is no?
The answer is, I sat down with a person that was going to invest $25 million. We went back and forth on the terms that we negotiated. We shook hands, we agreed. I passed it through the mayor, he said fine. And I would hate to shake someone's hand and come into agreement
But you know
and
that
then
we'll have
have to backtrack.
But you know that you have to come to us in order for us to make a decision, right?
You're right, we do have to come before
So
you.
we are able to make suggestions?
I think the purview of the council is to vote in favor of it or against it.
I would hate to vote against it if we don't are able to make suggestions. Like, it's a give and take.
Again, from what I understand, and anyone's free to correct me if I'm wrong, the negotiation of the TIF is an administrative process, and it's within our purview to negotiate the terms of that. We come before the council for the approval or the denial of a TIF, and if we're going to deny and potentially risk the development or something that's going to bring $25 million into the city in brick and mortar and actual structure, then I'm not sure that that's the direction that we want to go in. But it's really up to you folks, the councilors.
All right.
Thank you.
Mr. Vargas, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
You mentioned that the base assessment value that the current investor is going to be paying taxes on is going to be $782,000. Am I correct?
Correct.
And you also mentioned that there's going to be an investment on $25 million.
Give or take, yes.
Approximately. How do you translate an investment of $25 million to a new a new assessment value of 7.5? How did that come about?
So I don't come up with that number. I'm not an assessor. We worked with Alex Vega in the assessor's office to come up with that number. But just to put things into perspective, the building that the 200,000 square foot building that we did for Asahi, it's currently assessed at $7.6 million, and it's 200,000 square feet, almost 2.5 the size of this building. So that adds some perspective of.
I'm sorry, which building is that?
The Asahi building, the old Staples building.
Mm-hmm.
That building, as it stands now, is assessed at $7.6 million.
And the square footage is what?
200,000 square feet.
And this building is going to be how many square footage?
The building is going to be 70,000 square feet. 75, sorry.
75,000.
Right.
Okay.
So this building is going to be worth, at the end of this, is going to be worth the same as that 200,000 square foot building.
Isn't the difference of that building that you're mentioning versus this building, the value is not going to be based on the square footage, but more on the equipment and other items that are going to be added to the building?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to make it an apple to apple. I'm just trying to add some perspective of what the valuations in the city are. Because you can't put a building when valuations are low in the city. You can't put a building, even if you put $100 million, and say it's worth $100 million. If I were to put $500,000 in my property, I doubt that the assessed value will go up by $500,000 because the market just won't justify it. So if the market conditions say that it'll be worth $7.5 million because of the market that we're in, then that's the assessed value. And we can't pretend just because he put in $25 million into the property that all of a sudden a building in Lawrence is going to cost that much.
No, I understand that. It's just that a comparison of square footage by itself is not sufficient.
You're right.
I think obviously he's talking about a high-quality medical building, which is going to encompass a great deal more than a simple building with a square footage. And I would be interested in simply hearing from Mr. Vega about how he arrived from a $25 million investment, plus or minus, to an assessed value of a building that, based on the investor, is going to be a quality medical building to a 7.5 assessment, $7.5 million assessment.
Yeah,
And
I think
again,
that's fair.
let me say this, I definitely love the idea. I think we need more people with the courage to make an investment in the city of Lawrence. And I definitely want to support it, but I want to make sure that we understand exactly what are going to be the real details, so that if we vote in favor of it, we know that we are voting something in favor that you are going to get a break, okay, but how much of a break, okay, and whether we're going to be cheating the taxpayer because we're going to give you too much of a break. So, but again, I definitely, I'm very happy that you decided to make an investment in the city of Lawrence. Your father was my father's doctor, so I know your father for a long time, and I'm very happy that you decided to make an investment in the city of Lawrence. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Vasquez.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Again, I'd like to thank Mr. Vargas, as well as developer Lopez, for deciding to come to the city of Lawrence. I'm pretty sure it was not, an easy decision for him in the aspect of probably the investment part, but from the personal portion, we know that his heart is in the right place. And for that reason, I do think that we should support this, of course, with the clarifications as needed. But I think that this project overall will be a great addition to the city of Lawrence, particularly in that area. It's going to tie it in perfectly to the next topic we're going to have, even though it's in the separate side of the river. But I think that this is going to be the first domino that we're going to turn around, and as a result of that, more and more developers and investors will start coming in. We need to look at this closely and understand that he's taking a very, very huge risk when it comes to developing here. But at the same time, he has the faith and he's seen something. He's a visionary. And I know that in 10 years down the road, we will start noticing why this investment came in today. So I hope that within the next 2 weeks, we could support it, gather all the information necessary, and come back and take an affirmative vote, because that's what the city needs. We need it, and as he mentioned before, if he had the money to do it, we will have seen that building already going up. Unfortunately, he does not. He needs the support of the city, and let's go back to the drawing board, see what's missing, let's clarify it, make it in a way that is good for both the developer, but in the same time for the city of Lawrence and our taxpayers, because at the end of the day, we're here to defend our taxpayers. But at the end of the day, at the same time, I'm sorry about that, at the same time, we're also here to provide them with opportunities of development and opportunities to say that Lawrence is a world-class city. And I do see it eventually, and we have to start believing that. And if other people believe it, why can't we? We have to treat it as such. So, Mr. Lopez, thank you for coming to the city of Lawrence. Thank you for deciding, not for coming, for returning to your home. Your home welcomes you because this is where you belong. Thank you again. Thank you.
Councilor Reyes, and then our Mr. LaPlante.
No, I just want to thank them and just let them know that we all love the idea, but, the fact that we're missing number and we just want to see everything together in order for us just to be sure what we're going to be voting, but it's nothing to against. I'm sure that every single one, not only the council, but also the areas, want to see that projects happen. So we are going to work with you. We are going to support it. But you know that, since we're missing a lot of documents or numbers that we need to see, That's all we need.
Ms. LaPlante?
Motion to table.
I'm sorry?
Motion to table.
There's a motion on the floor to table. Is there a second? It has been seconded by Councilor Montes. Any further discussion?
No discussion.
No discussion on motion
Okay,
to table.
I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Oppose? Roll call, please.
Council Vasquez.
Yes.
Council LaPlante.
Yes.
Council Toomey.
No.
Council Reyes. Council Almonte. Council Aquino.
Yes.
Council Bernal.
Yes.
Council Vice President Alvarez Rodriguez.
Yes.
And Council President Maldonado.
Yes, the ayes have it. Mr. Lopez, this is not at all a rejection of the project.
No.
It is simply to get some additional clarification, and I am sure that eventually, once we get the information that we are requesting, and that I'm sure that and I'm hopeful that your project will move forward.
Well, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to my case.
Thank you.
If I can be of further service, my door is open to the council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman of our Budget and Finance Committee, will you continue with document 39614?
Definitely. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Document 39614, it's a MassWorks grant for the Merrimack Street Improvement Project on the amount of $3,925,000. And it was placed on the agenda by Ms. Teresa Park, who is the Director of the Office of Planning and Development. Ms. Park, welcome. He came up with a favorable recommendation from the subcommittee. I make that in form of a motion to approve
Second.
tonight.
Motion has been made and properly second. Before I entertain any discussion, let me allow Mrs. Sparks to provide us with a presentation.
Well, yes, thank you so much. I'd like to also take the opportunity to hand out some preliminary plans. Councilor Plant had requested this at the last meeting.
Nice. You have an extra? Yep, no, that's for you.
Thank you.
Huh? I will give him mine.
Great.
I will give him mine for the record.
So,
Why don't you go ahead?
okay, wonderful. So I just thought I'd offer some background information about what I'm here to speak to you about, which is our successful application to the state for MassWorks. And what this grant allows you to do is to support infrastructure improvements that can be then connected to economic development and job growth. So we submitted an application last summer, and then we got a notification in the fall whereby of the 150 applications that were valued at $241 million, we were one of 31 grants to be approved, totaling one of $67 million. And we were, in fact, awarded a $3.925 million grant, which is the sixth highest of all the grants that were awarded for this last round. As far as what's we're looking to do, the need for improvements to Merrimack Street actually dates back, at least from the reports that I've seen, at least back to 1998. And this is based on studies that were done by Mass DOT as well as the Regional Planning Agency. And there were concerns that were raised, everything dealing from roadway issues that then connects to public safety issues, as well as how do we spur economic development and job growth when we're constrained by the existing conditions of the infrastructure. So we have a very preliminary plan, and I'm here with Mitch Geamy, who is the president and CEO of TEC. And what the plans that are in front of you are sort of getting close to about the 25% design. Ultimately, the time frame will be such that we have until the end of this calendar year, December 31st, to actually complete the design, so taking us through from the 25% to the 100% design and engineering, as well as doing the construction as well. So we have a very tight time frame, but we feel confident that we can anticipate and work with the community, work with the neighbors, work with the businesses that are located there to try to anticipate any challenges regarding this reconstruction and be able to move forward with it. Now, in the grant, there are two pieces to this grant. One, which is primarily the reconstruction. So out of the 3.925, with the exception of $250,000, the rest of it is going towards the reconstruction for the stretch of Merrimack Street between I-495 and South Union Street. The second piece is actually a land use planning study for Merrimack Street between South Union Street and Route 28. The idea is that as economic development occurs, is there a way where we could look at the potential ripple effect that might happen further down the street and be able to work to look at the infrastructure needs, look at the land use, reuse potential, and come up with a scenario that we can move forward on. We have actually had a preliminary meeting with some of the smaller businesses in the neighborhood. There was some concern based upon very preliminary design that were done in past studies about some of the changes that were shown on that plan. We're working with a goal of being parking neutral in the sense that there are going to be changes to the roadway design, but we anticipate that we will strive to retain as many of the on-street parking that's currently available so that the net impact will be no loss in parking. One of the things that we've discovered since starting this is that there is some ordinance in place that has some restrictions on parking on Merrimack Street, particularly on the easterly side. So we're hoping that to look into that ordinance further to see whether or not that bears making modifications to allow for better on-street parking accommodation. If the other piece to this application that I would mention is that we had to identify a very specific need as far as economic development is concerned, in that it's not just infrastructure improvements alone, that the improvements are in fact directly connected to job growth and economic development. So to that extent, we have gotten commitment from the Poli Company, and it is their plan to redevelop additional 800,000 square feet of space, 600, which is actually be redevelopment, and 200,000 square feet of new growth, new development. And by redeveloping that additional square footage, it's anticipated that it could create up to 400 full-time jobs, 100 part-time jobs, as well as retaining 100 full-time jobs. And we've also, not only have we met with some of the smaller businesses, but we have also gotten the endorsement of some of the larger businesses in the area as well, because ultimately they're going to be impacted, their employees are going to be impacted, how they commute to their work will be impacted, how they're able to better utilize the roadway, whether it's the improved sidewalks, the bicycle path, the newly landscaped amenities, whether that's the new street lights, we're also the trees. We're also anticipating on burying the utilities. So I think that going forward, what you would potentially see is a very new and improved streets that will be attractive for not just the immediate stakeholders that are there, but just all the residents in that neighborhood as well. Mitch is here. He can talk much more specifically about the specific design elements of the plan that's before you, but as I mentioned, it is very preliminary. We are going to be having 2 public meetings as part of this process. One which will be held at the very beginning of the design process so that we could get as much input as possible from folks so that ultimately the outcome will be the best outcome possible. And secondarily, before we actually start the construction period, we'll again be we'll have a public meeting so that we could let people know about sort of what kind of construction is going to occur, what kind of potential impact that they may have on parking, traffic flow, and so on, so that we have a line of communication to sort of mitigate any concerns that might be raised. Would you like me to have Mitch do a quick presentation of what's in the plans?
Sure.
Mitch?
Portion of the project that Teresa mentioned, construction piece that we'd be advancing.
Can you, if you can move the, yes, that way you can speak on the microphone.
The construction piece that Teresa was describing
would take place from, and same as in your handouts, from Union Street east towards 495. As part of this project, it's identified as a priority corridor by the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. And as part of the MassWorks grant application, all the work that has to take place, the design and construction, must meet Mass DOT complete streets criteria. And as part of that, they suggest healthy transportation alternatives. And that's where you'll see we're encouraging brand-new sidewalks throughout the corridor, bicycle lanes, taxi stands, bus stops. As part of that, for the transportation improvements, and all of the signals that we're going through will all be coordinated so the corridor moves more efficiently. We'll be redesigning and reconfiguring the signal at Union Street, and then moving east through the corridor, increasing the turning lanes. We'd go up by New Balance with new expansion improvements through there. At the MVRT, a parking garage, there'll be a taxi stand that's signaled. All of the work that we're proposing is taking place within the current right-of-way. We've identified areas to the north side of Merrimack Street where permanent or temporary easements would have to take place as part of the project. We continue moving through. Improvements would continue through the Merrimack Street corridor. Opposite Osgood Street, we would continue the on-street parking, looking for both sides of the street to maximize that capability of parking. Improvements on Osgood as well as Temple Street, moving east, and we'd have a drop-off area at the Department of Health and Human Services in there, so cars can pull over, drop off, make a drop-off, and traffic can continue to flow along Merrimack Street.
Mr. President, for you.
Yes, go ahead. New signal installation.
Can you hold on there?
I'm sorry.
I've noticed that when we go from sheet 1 to sheet 2, I will call it the inbound lane or the lane coming from the highway into the city, it becomes one lane rather than two. Originally is two.
Heading in this direction.
Yeah, heading, that will
So
be west.
You're heading west towards Union Street, that's
Yes.
correct.
So is it that the width wouldn't allow it to be a two-lane? I mean, that the lane will be,
Yes, we could not have 4 lanes throughout the entire corridor, 2 lanes in each direction throughout
That's
the
what I'm
entire corridor within the existing right-of-way, and still provide the off-street parking that we want to provide as part of the corridor improvements, as well as the bus stop and taxi stands.
okay. All right.
Right?
Thank you.
The parking would be for public use along the Merrimack Street itself.
Any other questions?
No, no additional questions.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr.
continue.
President.
I have a question, though. These plans are what, 25% complete?
Close, close. This is a concept that we provided for the city as part of the grant application to obtain the $4 million MassWorks grant.
So there's 75%, there's another 75% possible changes within these plans, is that correct?
Yes, as the design continues to develop and we seek input at the initial public meeting, and as that process occurs, and working with the city, there would be some changes to the concept, but the basics of the concept is what we're proposing here.
Well, I have a problem with voting for something that's only 25%. I only see 25% off. I prefer to see the 100% so I can make at least a value judgment in what I want to do. Is there any way that in reference to this $3.9 million approval, that portions of it could be removed to complete this portion of it, so we can get a full idea of exactly what it's going to look like when it's finished?
Well, ultimately, the the vote tonight is for the acceptance of the grant.
Sorry?
The vote tonight is for just for us to accept the money from the state. And ultimately, I think that, as Mitch alluded to, that this is a very preliminary conceptual plan of what we envision based upon the requirements of the state complete street system, as well as listening to some of the businesses and others as far as how do we manage a safe roadway system, as well as how do we accommodate the users, specifically the businesses and the property owners along Merrimack Street. So this is very much a conceptual plan. It will likely be a little bit different at the 100%, but for the sake of the vote tonight, it would be to accept the money. And as I mentioned, we need to complete this project by the end of this year, and unless we're able to move forward, it's very unlikely that we'll be able to meet that time frame.
Well, I'm still very unsettled about saying yes to something like this when I only see 25% of it in front of me. There could be massive changes later on that I might not like.
And ultimately, the changes are meant to do two things. One is adhere to the transportation standards, but at the same time, the changes that you would likely see happening will be based upon public input. So we hope that the changes that we do make will be in keeping with the kind of things that you would want to see on the street.
When are you going to have the public input?
We anticipate being able to, so assuming that the council approves the acceptance of this grant, we would likely we would try to schedule a public hearing end of January, very early February.
You can appreciate my concerns, because I've been very much involved with the people who work and live in that area, and they have deep concerns about what's going to happen with this.
Right.
And as far as I know, none of them have attended these Budget and Finance Committee meetings. They probably even knew about it.
I believe, so there was, just as a background for folks, there was a meeting some time ago with some of the smaller businesses, and at that meeting, a number of concerns were raised. One of the predominant concerns that were raised was on-street parking, because they were thinking that the studies that were done, past studies, showed parking being taken away in front of the businesses. And I think that we have committed to retaining as much, if not more, parking, which is why we're also going to look at this ordinance to see whether or not we could incorporate parking in other areas of the street as well. We've had some back and forth conversations, and we've even went so far as to look at some short-term remediations that we could do now. Everything from, some of the requests was included actually designating specific parking areas within Merrimack Street right now. There was a request to have lighting, actually, instead of better lighting, to have lighting actually in a private parking lot. And so we have made that ask as well. We're looking to see about the possibility of a police detail during rush hour, so that kind of the traffic flow is addressed during those key times of the day. We're also looking at adding potentially curbing on portion of Merrimack Street as well as some of the side streets, so that it better delineates where parking can occur. So even though what you're seeing is going to have longer-term implications, we're already working with some of the area businesses, because we heard their concern, and we want them to know that this is the kind of improvement that's supposed to help everybody and not just a few people. So to that extent, listening to them out and seeing how we could continue to incorporate those design elements so that the outcome is one that works for the entire, as much of the community as possible.
Okay. Yes. There is approximately about 8 years ago, the City Council approved a gateway project, this is part of the gateway, back in the Sullivan administration, and obviously continued through the previous administration, and now new additional monies that are going to enhance what was started 8 years ago, approximately. The $3.9 million is new funding, totally new funding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that new funding is to improve what has already been approved before and make it better than what it was.
Well, I will say that sort of, I don't know exactly what the specific of the improvements that were made back then, but certainly the improvements that we're suggesting now are improvements that are in need to actually make this thoroughfare work as well as it can. And not just for cars, but also for pedestrians, as well as people who are walking to the commuter rail station, as well as the bicyclists who might be working in Riverwalk. So it's meant to have as broad impact as possible on the community. I walked this stretch since we've gotten the grant, or since we've been looking to apply for this grant, walked this grant, and I will say everything from the sidewalk conditions, they definitely need to be repaired. I think the roadway, because there are these bottlenecks that really have an impact on people's ability to navigate in and out. And I think unless you could address some of those choke points, some of the development potential that exists in that corridor, I think we're severely impairing. And I think if we're very much committed to seeing commercial development happen as well as job growth happen, then we need to find a way where we could get employees that are going in and out of these places can do so safely and as trouble-free as possible.
I remember that we spoke so much about the Gateway project, and we waited and waited and waited, and finally, 2010, 2011, the project started. I remember that the Housing Committee, we accepted some donations of land in order to expand the width of, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's actually in Marston Street here.
That wasn't.
Marston Street, not this area.
Okay, so it's my mistake then. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, I have a couple of questions. And I just wanted to point out, I have been in this area. I use this area a lot. And so I have a couple of questions. But first, how did you make the decision to concentrate in this area? And when you applied for the grant, did you submit this idea and that's why you got the money, or was the money allocated and then you decide where to apply it?
The project had to be advanced up to a certain point in order for us to apply to begin with, and it has to be directly connected to job growth. So I think if you were to take into considerations those criteria, then you're kind of limited on where you could focus this grant money. And so I think as far as like a short-term job growth is concerned, and as well as how far this design may be advanced so that you could actually get the application in on time, it naturally, Merrimack Street naturally evolved to the top. And we specifically had to identify this project because we had to submit an accompanying budget to go with that. So that was the genesis of the application.
Okay. The reason why I asked is because one of the issues of safety that you were talking about, and please, everybody excuse me, I'm a little under the weather because of my allergies, so I'm talking like this not because I want to be sexy, but because I have these allergies.
Noted.
Excuse me. But in the issue of safety, one of the things that I know in councils past that we have been concerned about has been 114 and where the Lawrence High School is at, and nearby the intermediate school, and the young folks being able to cross over to where they're attracted at the mall. And it just seems to me that a lot is being taken away from that specific area. And when I say that, I'm talking about the Department of Motor Vehicles, whatever. And I know you guys have your reasons, but I also want to make sure that we're understanding that other than this area and Essex Street, there are other parts of the city that really need us. Broadway, where all the stores are there, where the awnings were supposed to be looked at, and money was supposed to be allowed. The money is no longer available for the businessmen to apply to beautify that area there. And again, the parking situation past like Walgreens on Lowell Street, it becomes congested all the way down to, I want to say, Cross Street, and then some. It could be big and beefy or whatever. But that area really needs us. And I'm wondering if we're looking at planning with, not just for specific areas like this that have had in the past some investments, but to also look at areas where investments haven't been made. The only thing that changed there was that the state paved the way, paved the street, but that was it. But again, in safety, talk about safety, there are issues for safety there crossing over. What about the pedestrians there? So, Ms. Park, I always call you Dr. Park for some reason.
Oh, gee, my parents wanted me to be a doctor, but here I am instead. But if I may respond to that, actually. So one of the things that we're always trying to do, because typically infrastructure projects are very high price tag items. And so what we're looking to do is to be able to connect infrastructure need with funding sources. And so there are two major ones. At the state level, you have the MassWorks grant, which now we're taking advantage of. The other is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is a regional transportation planning agency, and they basically plan out 3 years in advance of all the transportation funding. We've been working with the MPO, who actually resides within the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, to identify and prioritize other infrastructure improvement projects in the city, and to also to progress the projects that may already be in queue. So one of the projects we're looking at, there's a program called Safe Routes to School program. And this is before my time, but Bruce School was identified as a school in need, because if you were to look at everything from the sidewalk and the roadway around there, it's pretty deplorable. So we're working with this program to advance it so that they could get the funding to make those sidewalk repairs, make the roadway repairs, so that whether the kids are walking to school or they're being driven to school, that they have a good way to get there. I've also found some additional studies that looked at a couple different intersection points along Broadway Street, and there is definitely a need. And so what we're trying to do is find a way to queue those projects up for future funding, so that as they become available, we're able to tap into it and make those enhancements as well. Lastly, on 114, we are working with both the town of North Andover as well as the Planning Commission to see whether or not the state would be willing to do a larger project that also includes the bridge, so that not only would it make it safer, but again, there's that major choke point where the traffic goes into one lane, and whether or not that could be addressed. But there is a bridge there, so that would be another, you're talking probably about a $9 million project there or something.
What bridge?
There's that
14 where we're talking about the school?
Yeah, just going further west on 114 from the high school. Yeah, so we're looking to do a larger stretch of 114 that affects both North Andover and Lawrence.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we understand that aside from these areas where there has already been investments, that there are other areas that truly need us. And, you do have small businesses there that are producing and moving the economy. And as we know, for America, small business is like the key to making the economy work.
Yep.
So we need to pay attention to them as well.
Yes, we do.
Then the other issue that I have, going back to the area, the specific area that you're speaking of, why one lane coming in, west, and 2 lanes leaving? Do we want to facilitate people leaving Lawrence, or do we want to facilitate people coming in?
Mitch, would you like to answer that question?
The number of lanes will vary as you approach different intersections. As you approach Union Street, there's 2 lanes in both directions, east and westbound. As you're moving through the corridor, in our preliminary traffic study, it's the number of vehicles and the direction that they're heading in peak and non-peak hours, along with Mass DOT complete streets, sets the criteria for number of lanes, turning lanes that we include as part of our design, as well as the bicycle lanes that you see, that we have in there and in your diagram.
So let me ask you, you have also on the back here a two-way lane. Is that the old, or is that, that an alternate plan?
So what you have in front of you is a concept that we're working off of right now.
Right, the last 2 pages still have a two-way going west. Is that an alternative plan?
No, at the intersection of 354 Merrimack Street,
That's a different street?
are you on sheet 3?
It's still Merrimack Street.
Still, yes, 354 Merrimack Street, there'll be a new signal installed at that location, and there is 2 lanes, both through and turning, right in, right out, left and through, and left turns at that intersection. And that would be the new signal, and that will be timed with the existing signal at Union Street and the signal as we move towards 495.
Okay, now let me ask you, your name, sir? I'm sorry.
I'm Mitchell Keamy.
Your last name is?
Keamy.
Keamy. Okay, Mr. Keamy, I always come out of 495 going to try to go west. And I definitely see a problem there. Where you're coming out of, let's say, Merrimack Valley Elder Services or the VNA or whatever, and you're coming out of that area there from the parking lot there, and you're coming from 495, it definitely becomes a problem. So I don't know, how did you see that working out with having one lane when you're having traffic being fed from 2 different sources closely by?
Just so I'm sure, are we right at 495, Council?
Yes.
Some of the things that we could look at is advancing the design, raise medians, fix medians to provide some safety for pedestrian crossings, and then we could take a look at this abutter and their driveway to look if there's some things that we can do there, possibly only right out, coming out of that driveway. And that's part of the things that we would look at throughout the corridor as we advance from this conceptual design to the completed design.
So let me see if I understand this. You're saying when we come out of 495 and that entrance there into the Riverwalk, you would make it an enter only and then come out the other way?
Right now, it's a private drive, but we would have to work with the abutter and the owner and look at a right in and a right out. And look at what type of improvements and safety improvements something like that would provide as we move forward.
Okay, because as they come out, I know we have to wait till they come out, give them an opportunity to come out, and then you have people coming straight. So there's an issue there, and I don't see, unless you help me see it, a way that this is going to help that congestion.
It will help the way the entire corridor functions. It won't make everything 100% perfect because it is a busy corridor. As part of that, that's what's generating the need for these improvements that we're doing throughout the corridor.
Right, but how is it going to help if we eliminate, one of the lanes?
We're not eliminating lanes in this area.
So you're saying that at the beginning, when you're coming off 495, we'll still have 2 lanes?
In each direction, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, my other question is, the issue of the bike lane, where did you get the idea? Were there people who came to you and said, we need a bike lane down Merrimack Street? Because it's only like, versus the rest of the area, it's not like, I don't know what other town, well, I can't think of it now. Yeah, it's not like how do we get the bikers?
First of all, as part of the complete street design standards, we're required to look at accommodating all uses as possible. So that includes bicycle lane, sidewalk, and roadway. But the other thing that I would say is we had one initial meeting with New Balance whereby they didn't, because it's an athletic company, their employees tend to be out running and bicycling, and they did mention that those are the amenities that they would really find to be of benefit to their employees. The other thing I guess I think about is that, I like to think that when we do this roadway improvements, we're not just thinking about how we're using the roadway now, but thinking about how we could be using the roadway going forward. And I think that if you were to be able to accommodate bicyclists in a safe way, then it would allow for people to travel with that mode that they may not have, whereas they may have driven in, before. And I think what the net impact of that is, again, potential a healthier community, as well as just providing a safe alternative mode of transport to cars, thereby reducing the vehicle trips.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking how having that in one area versus the rest of the city.
I think going forward, if it's the case where we're able to tap into additional funding and to make some other roadway improvements, then we would want to try to find a way to accommodate that. I mean, there are different ways you can do it, because if it is a case where your roadway is restricted, you can do, and you can't fit a bicycle lane, for example, what you can do is what's called sharrows, which are markings on the roadways so that it alerts drivers and lets them know that they're in fact sharing the road with a bicyclist. So there are different ways of doing that.
Okay, but that's not a priority, is it?
I think it's an important. There are bicyclists out there by all means, and I think it would be important for us to make it as safe and to the extent that we can, try to accommodate those uses.
Well, I'm concerned because
there's a point of information.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. To be able to assist Ms. Park in this, I know that for the last couple of years, the Mayor's Health Task Force, under the direction of Vilma Laura, has been working tirelessly to make sure that the city starts to incorporate complete streets into the new designs that are going to come up in any future streets in the city of Lawrence. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, they have been doing some studies and reviews. I'm sure there has been communication, most likely with your office, in reference to it, but this is something that has been in the talks for at least 3 years that I know of, because I was in one of those meetings as part of the Mayor's Health Task Force, and to address one other concern that you had earlier in reference to the busy intersections that we have in the city. We approved, if you remember, about 2 months ago, a grant that will assist the Lawrence Police Department in identifying anyone who's not allowing pedestrians to cross the street safely. That the likelihood is that they will get ticketed if they are not doing things properly in certain key intersections. I know that mostly what was addressed was the high school area, as well as Broadway and Exeter Street, which is concerns that you have brought up. So we did approve a grant for that recently to address those safety concerns.
Is that a grant for the overpass? Because maybe Councilman
No, it's not a grant.
I remember the child that was killed on 114 and the promises that local government made to the people about making it safe for the children in that
No, it is not a
that
grant.
are in that area.
Yeah, it is not a grant for the overpass. What it is, what we actually approved as a body was that we will allow the Lawrence Police Department to use funds that they have received to have police officers in certain key locations in which there's high foot traffic and there are certain violations going on by the drivers to ensure the safety of pedestrians.
Okay,
So it is not
President?
for the overpass.
Thank you for the point of information, but Council President, I'm concerned that there are other areas that need our attention. I fully understand, Ms. Parks, that you submitted, if not all, part of this project in order to get the money. Now, I'm not saying not to accept the grant money and to support where it's going. But I'm also wanting to plant in your mind the need to deal with traffic congestion all over the city. And I'm not so sure that eliminating lanes is a way to facilitate traffic in our city. And the other idea is that aside from, I guess very quickly, and I just have one more question after this, how do you see, I mean, we want to facilitate the small business. As I said, I'm a patron of, just like my counselor to the left, of, you know, Romano's Pizza and stuff. So, of course, I'm in favor of helping the small businesses there. How does it create jobs? You said that this new traffic design will create jobs. Can you explain that?
Sure, absolutely.
You said it in a broad way. I want to know specifically.
Sure.
If you can.
As part of the application, we actually have to have a developer commitment in that this infrastructure improvement is directly spurring development activity. And by that token, we have the commitment from the Lupoli companies that they're planning on rehabbing 600,000 square feet of additional commercial space in an existing mill building, as well as constructing a new 200,000, adding 200,000 square feet of new construction. And so with that 800,000 square feet of space, they anticipate calculating, you know, the types of uses they currently see in their mix of buildings. They anticipate that's going to translate to about 400 full-time jobs as well as 100 part-time jobs.
So you see that specifically happening in the
yes, and
mills?
they have to commit to that in order for us to get this grant application.
Mm-hmm. So the owners of the mills there
yes.
have to commit to making that happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Alvarez, may I suggest, it's obvious that you have a lot of concerns and a lot of questions. May I suggest that you meet with Ms. Parks?
I will,
so that you can, because obviously you have a lot of questions.
No, I'm done. I just have
one more. It would be better if you meet with her individually so that you can air those concerns and at the same time they can listen to what those
Thank you,
concerns
Council President. But I air these concerns on behalf of my constituents.
I
It's not stuff
understand.
that I'm sitting here making up. But there's the last thing, just as you now had inspectional services, I want to also make sure that the residential areas get taken care of, especially with the flooding, that water's going into their basement, swimming pools, and creating a safety hazard or health hazard there.
Thank you. Councilor Montes.
President, I just had a quick question here. The light sources, the traffic lights that are there now, are those lights going to come down, or are new lights going to be added?
So it's going to, so what we're going to see happening is we're going to see one new light fixture and then new equipment to the existing light fixture at the South Union Street as well as I-495 interchange. And what the new equipment and the new light fixture will allow us to do is, right now the lights can't talk to each other. And so what this will allow us to do is for the lights to be synchronized in such a way that we can manage the traffic flow. So no, we're not replacing any traffic lights. We're going to have 3 more advanced light fixtures as well as a couple of lights for pedestrian crossing as well.
Only because, like, see, where the new projects came up on Canal Street and Marston Street area, we have an excess, I believe, an excess of lights. We've got like 3 lights all turning green at the same time, and there's 2 lanes going into 3, and there's none saying for you to turn left here. There is not one saying that this is for this lane. So when all these lights turn on, you've got confusion, unless, especially where this is a new area, we have people coming into our city that don't know our city. So it's very confusing. And we already have enough street lights there, so to add another one, I think would cause more confusion, because there are already enough street lights there to conduct the traffic. So if we're adding more, to me, if I'm not from this town and I'm coming into this town, I mean, being from this town, I think I would be a little confused. Okay, so what light is telling me what at this moment? I mean, are we paying additional money for these lights?
That's incorporated into the budget. So we're talking about close to about a mile-long stretch between I-495 to the South Union Street. So I don't think 3 streetlights within a mile-long stretch would be, from a sightline standpoint, I don't think the drivers will be too confused. The other thing is that it has a combination of having the good lighting as well as good pavement markings as well, so that as far as the which lane you're supposed to be in, to go straight, to turn left, turn right, I think that would be very clearly laid out for the drivers.
I just think it would be a little confusing just from my point of view, being from this small town called Lawrence to getting all of this new money, and I get it, and all this new development, and it's just a little much of a confusion. The other thing that I wanted to say to you guys, there's an underwater conduit that runs along here that used to operate our mills. What happens to that?
We, as part of any kind of digging, would have to go get clearance from DigSafe, so they would be able to let us know where some of these underground
It
issues
runs
may
the
be.
entire length of Merrimack Street. It used to power our mills, so it's the entire length of that. So I think this is something that needs to be looked at. It's something that it's not on paper, obviously, it's underground, and it's
Right.
something that we really need to figure out where that's going and what's happening with that. The light situation, I'm concerned. There's a lot of lights in the city that are just put there, and I'm concerned that, and so who pays the light bill? The city of Lawrence?
I'm sorry, I think it's
The city of Lawrence will be paying for the light bill, correct?
Yes.
That, to me, is a waste of money, because we're gonna have lights confusing people. We already have enough light fixtures there that are going to, can we put some type of, I don't know, program that'll have our lights that are there now talk to each other?
That's what she's saying?
Instead of adding no, they're adding new lights. New lights, to me, means more confusion. I know it. On Marston Street, it's a huge confusion. You don't know where you're going. They put a bunch of lights everywhere, and people don't know where they're going. I mean, I live in that area for 22 years, and basically I was like, okay, so this whole entire area, okay, so if I'm gonna take a left, what light do I look at? Oh no, all three of them turn green at the same time. So it's like, what are you supposed to do? So doesn't the other side. So how are you supposed to turn? There's like no time limit, there's no, and to me it's an excess of lights, because you don't need 3 lights to tell you what to do in such a small area. 3 here, 3 there, 6 lights in 4 lanes. It behooves me. Then we pay for it. So to have more street lights there that the city of Lawrence has to pay the light bill for, I think is a concern, and I think it should be raised, and I think it's a proper raise of concern from my end. I think it's something that should be looked at. I wouldn't want to see something that's going to cause more confusion for the people who coming into our city, coming in or out. And then we're talking about making from 2 lanes to 1, so why are we continuing to add lights? If there's a way for us to control that without adding lights, I think it would be beneficial. And I think that the monies would be saved on these lights we could use for other things that would be beneficial to this entire project. I mean, this is just little Sandy over here thinking in her own little mind. But of course, it's something that should be worth looking at. But I think that whole underwater, the water conduit.
we'll definitely be looking at that.
I would love to know the information on that before I can make, a valid vote from, I need to know what's going on with all of this before. And the concern that Councilor Alvarez raised, 100%, on the coming off of 495 with the Merrimack Valley Bank there and all of the, I mean, this development has taken wing really, really, really fast, just in that little area. We do have a lot of other areas here in our city, that need attention. And it being this area, yeah, I have a lot of, Prospect Hill, I don't have a lot of sidewalks in a lot of places. We need them. I got kids walking to school in the dirt, etc. Bruce School, they need it too. Our hills need to be tended to. And I get it, business area, business growth. We need to take a look a little more at the people, and I get it, the business brings money into our city. But we have people who already live here, and we need to help them out too. So that's the other thing, that and the proposal, please look into money for our sidewalks. We really need sidewalks in most of our city where our kids don't have the right of way to walk. Our kids have gotten hit and killed. And these are things that I believe should have been a projected emphasis on before this, because the kids are not going to go anywhere from that. We created the Lawrence High School there. We have created new businesses around there, which have created more traffic. And I believe that we need to make it safer in that area for them. Putting a police officer there to cross the kids is not going to work. It's not going to work. The child was hit back when I was still in the school department, and that was over 7, 8 years ago. I want to say he got hit. He was one of my kids. Really hurt me to see him there. in that situation in the family. Nothing's been done since then. Turn the blind eye, no one's talked about it. The little girl who got hit in the train. Why didn't they send somebody to talk to the kids about, train safety, crossing the train tracks, et cetera, et cetera? There's so much that could be done. And I feel that it's all going into, oh my God, because we need to create business or whatever. We need to create safety for the people of the city of Lawrence first before we need to create all of this other traffic and all of this other stuff that's gonna create more travel, more all of this other stuff for our city, when we really, really, really need to pay attention to all the little things that mean so much because it is our city.
Sure.
So that crosswalk, the crossway that we need for the kids on 114, that's a plus. That's like a number one thing that I would put like on the header. Train safety for the kids. I mean, I haven't heard anybody go to the schools to talk to the kids about train safety, which should have been done. The light issue, I don't think that we need these lights and we don't need the extra payment on our light bills. The underwater conduit, I think that needs to be taken a look at. Over by off of 495, coming into Merrimack Street, that's the other one we need to take a look at. And I get it. The people who have businesses on that street would love for it to be that way. If I had multi-million dollars and I had businesses there, I would love that also. But we need other things also, first and foremost, before we continue to make it feasible for other people. We need to make it better for us.
Absolutely, and I think that we're all in sync as far as thinking about the fact that public safety is really important, and that translates to a lot of different things. And as mentioned earlier, I think what we're trying to do is juggle where the funding sources are and where the need is, and trying to sort of match those two, so that in this particular case, it was job creation related, it was about economic development, so we're able to fit this into this particular program. We are looking at other transportation funding programs so that whether it's school related or whether it's sidewalk related or whether it's thinking about how we allocate Chapter 90 money as far as the sidewalk and pavement management, so we could better manage as well as tapping into as many resources as possible. So it's not to say that just because this project is before you, that's not to say that other parts of the city are not important. We're just making sure that as these opportunities arise, we could capture them so that it's one less piece we have to do later on.
So I would love, those 3 lights, how much would it cost for those 3 lights? Just a ballpark. How much would it cost to install?
Well, the two are basically adding equipment to make improvements to those lights, but I think a new light fixture, which is what, is about $100,000?
Yes, 100 to 100.
3, that's $300,000.
No, one new fixture is $100,000.
How many
The other
lights?
2 require additional equipment to the existing light fixture, so I'm not sure what that price tag is.
Yes. We would be installing loop detection at the existing locations. New equipment is the existing locations, so the existing signals with the one new traffic signal at 354 Merrimack Street can be talking to each other. What we're trying to prevent is the stop, go, and once you're in a movement under the green light, that you continue through the corridor in the green light. The new equipment at each existing signalization is around $50,000. The new traffic signal at 354 is between $100,000 and $150,000 of the $4 million budget.
So that could be $150,000 that we could probably use for what we need.
Except it
A
wouldn't be eligible
crosswalk
under this
for the
particular
kids.
grant source.
We wouldn't be able to use it on 114?
No.
We wouldn't be able
That's
to.
a whole different application altogether.
So I think we should, regardless, I think that we should take a look at that. I don't think that we need the more street lights. I think, seriously, I really don't think that we need it. We don't need an extra bill on our lights either. I wouldn't want it. And I would just like, to me, this is just the beginning of something that could become very wonderful. I'm all for it, but just not at this point. Not at this moment, not with all the doubts and with all the stuff that I have in my head that needs to be rectified. And please, 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 let's look at grants so that we could do what we need to do for our kids, which is the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Plant.
Sure.
And then Mr. Toomey.
Congratulations on getting the money for this project. You worked with the state delegation, you realized that there were certain eligibility requirements, you were able to match the eligibility requirements with the money, it was competitive, the city received the money. So congratulations to you and to the delegation, whoever else was making a part of this to make this happen, because you are now going to make, as we did on Marston Street, and make that a fantastic gateway into our city, you are now going to make this a fantastic gateway into our city that's going to do nothing but to help the small business people along the side of the roads, as well as our larger folks and our big folks as well. New Balance, for example, on the other side with the bike paths and everything. So it's helping small mom and pop shops and bigger companies. So I think we should be thankful for all the work that we've gone on here. And I realize there's a number of suggestions that people have. I would encourage those ideas and those suggestions to the public forums that you are going to hold sometime either in late January or early February. Please let us know where those are.
Absolutely.
You hear a lot of folks here that got a tremendous amount of suggestions that they want to provide input, and I would recommend that we channel that energy into that particular forum, which is where you can take that and then say, is it 2 lanes here, 1 lane here, more parking, less parking, all those different things that we're talking about. So thank you so much for doing that. And I think this is a home run. And look, we can't say no to $4 million is going to help a gateway area in our city. I know how we can do that. And I hope that we don't tonight. And I also want to second your fantastic advice about helping Route 114. Let me second that. I think that's a great idea. Let that be our next project. Let's find out for the next pile of money what we can do to try to make some improvement. Let's figure out what those matches are. And I would support that. I'm glad to hear that you're talking about the North Andover and Lawrence connection. That's fantastic. So let's move on that and let's make that happen. And I'm so delighted to hear all this enthusiasm for that project. I think that's fantastic.
Mr. Toomey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plant. Mr. Toomey.
That was quite a talk.
I only had 30 seconds, though.
I still have to go back to my concerns, and I'll tell you the reasons why. I met with some of the business people on that strip, and they're very concerned about parking. They're afraid their business is basically in the evening, and people park on the street there, and they service them. And they were told a number of things in the past, like across the street where Mr. Napoli is working over there. He's going to develop one of those new sections. I think he's going to have something like 800,000 square feet of commercial space he's going to build over there, which is going to hold something like 4,000 more people.
400. 400.
400?
Yes.
I heard 4,000.
Sorry?
I heard 4,000.
No, 400.
Anyhow.
I apologize if I said 4,000 before.
Anyhow, there's a parking problem that's existing today. Even going back before Mr. Lepore decides to do that new building, when he was building this addition that he had over there that's over there currently, part of the concerns that people had was he was supposed to put up a garage, build a garage in the back. I think a 1,000-car garage. It's not there yet. I didn't quite understand all of that, so I went back and I looked into the planning board and the zoning boards, and sure enough, it stated right there he was supposed to put that garage up. There's a lot of parking spaces back there. People are parking. But can you imagine what's going to happen when he completes his work in this new building and these people come in, additional people? There's going to still be another problem with parking. So parking is a big, big problem in that area. And you can't blame these people for questioning the veracity of somebody when they tell them they're going to do this and do that. So this is why I would prefer to see something that's 100% complete versus 25% complete, and vote on that.
We unfortunately cannot proceed because the funding that we are getting from this grant will allow us to proceed from where we are now to that 100% design. So without this funding to get us there, we would not be able to get to that work that you would like to see.
Is there any way you can take a portion of that total $4 million that's devoted to this type of work or the cost, and just we'll approve that portion of it, holding off the balance of it until we see the completed program?
I don't know if the state allows us to do that.
I have one little one. I promise it will be no more than 1 second.
Well, if...
Please, just
we'll
quick.
have to ask Mr. Toomey for permission.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Toomey.
Will you give her...
Just 1 second, yes. Thank you.
Thank
You. I just had a quick comment, maybe something we have a problem here in our city with our skateboarders. They're like all over the place and everywhere. If we're giving an aisle lane here for bike riders to be able to use this lane, could this also have a little skateboard on it so that people who are on skateboards, or kids who are on skateboards, are able to use this and that they're not interfering with traffic? And that they're not interfering with the pace of car? I think, why not?
Okay. 30 seconds.
No. They are on it anyways. Okay. They use it anyways. So why not allow them to use the way for the bicycles, for them to be able to use their skateboard? They're in traffic anyways. Don't we have this problem across the city? So might as well just allow them to use that bike lane also. If they're on skateboards, our kids go through there all the time. I see them. They're up and down Merrimack Street. They're up and down Union Street. So I believe, or I think, like I said, Sandy's little head over here, that it would be feasible. It would be feasible. 10 more seconds. It would be feasible to be able to allow something like that so that our kids are safe, so that the people who that use the bikeway also can use, they can use the bikeway to be able to ride their skateboards there and be safe, out of traffic and away from, it creates a.
I'm gonna start off, and then maybe Mitch could add to this, which is that bicycles actually have to adhere to the rules of the road, much like vehicles do.
So it would.
So they basically operate as if they were a legal occupant of our road system. I think the problem with skateboarders are they would not be considered a sort of an allowable use on a roadway system. Mitch, please.
What I would like to do, I'm sorry. I have to interject here. I think that's a wonderful idea, but let me interject and allow Mr. Toomey to complete his questioning.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Toomey.
30 seconds. I just wanted you to understand my concerns about this whole thing, the veracity of it, okay? So I'm not going to be voting in favor of this tonight. I just want to let you know that, okay? Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. President, call the question.
I'm sorry. Please be very brief.
Definitely. I'll be concise in what I have to say because it will make sense. I will need to be timed. No one else has been timed before. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr.
Very fast.
Oh, Mr. President,
Yes.
I haven't spoken.
I'm sorry?
I haven't
Oh,
spoken.
you haven't? I
No.
thought you had finished. I'm sorry.
I thought you did. You opened.
I'm sorry. Go
You
ahead.
opened and you
Go
spoke,
ahead.
so this will be your second time.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Since the conversation is about to close, I'm going to be very precise. If we look at Article 7 under the scope of services of the packet that has been provided to us, I would like to inform members of the audience and the community what the specific details of the grant will go towards. It says that $460,000 will go towards planning, permitting, construction, and management. $150,000 will go towards design and engineering. $650,000 will be for pedestrian streets and streets improvements. $1.8 million will go to chronic curb, HMA pavement, drainage, and utilities. $80,000 towards traffic signage and pavement markings, and $785,000 towards traffic signals and management. This grant will be received in two forms, in two payments, if I'm not mistaken. Fiscal year 2015, which is the current fiscal year we're in, we're going to be receiving $1.3 million starting with the month of January, and there's a cash flow timeline that has been presented to us as part of the document. In fiscal year 2016, we will be receiving the remaining portion, which is approximately $1.6 million, also covered in the cash flow presented. I think that in order for us to make the best out of Lawrence, we have to do proper planning. We will not be able to redesign the city in one day. We have to take it one step at a time, and that's exactly what we're doing. We did that before. Well, I was not part of it, but it has been done before with the Marston Street project. It has been done now with the Merrimack Street project. I know that Mr. Vargas last week presented another project with the railroad along the Manchester Street area. So those are the things that, one step at a time, we will be able to make the improvements. We cannot tackle everything at once. I think it's been, I'm seeing some progress, some proper planning, and I thank you, Ms. Park, for your initiative on this. And again, I do second the proposals in reference to Route 114 and the remaining of the city. But I want to remind all councilors here that we will not be able to do everything at once. It's one step at a time. Rome was not built in one day. Thank you, Mr. President.
Last comment.
Thank you, Council President. I'm using this as a point of personal privilege. One, to reiterate that I said I wasn't crazy to reject grant funds. And the other was that the issues that I raised were for you to have it on the back of your head. So when some of the development ideas come up, you can maybe see if you can use those areas that we talked about to get grant funding for there, just to keep it in your mind and see how you could make those areas eligible for something. And I want to, as I said, a point of personal privilege, that I don't appreciate the sense of being a little bit patronizing because, Councilor LaPlante, if you go back to 2010 and 2009, Councilor Marie Gosselin, when the thing happened when that child died, she came and she talked about the overpass. We all talked about it, and there was a great deal of support for it. And this is not the first time. This is not an all of a sudden attention to 114 and the mall. I've, have a history of being behind the councilors that represent that area, as well as coming up with a few ideas, believe it or not, of my own. So, and I want to thank you. As I said, I'm not crazy to reject grant funding.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, councilors, I think that we have enough discussion. There is a motion on the floor to approve the use of $3.9 million for the Merrimack Development Street. And since there are no more discussion, let's take a vote. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Roll call.
Council Vice President.
Yes.
Council Bernal.
Yes?
Council Aquino.
Yes?
Council Almonte.
No.
Council Reyes.
Yes.
Council Toomey.
No.
Council LaPlante.
Yes.
Council Vasquez.
Yes.
Council President.
Yes.
Passes. 7-2.
Okay, let's move on to document 1115.
Thank you.
Chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Document 1115 is a Shannon Community Safety Grant on the amount of $328,680, and it was placed on the agenda by Lawrence Police Chief James Fitzpatrick. This came up from the subcommittee with a favorable recommendation, and I would like to make that informal motion to approve.
Second?
Motion has been made to approve the safety grant of $328,680.
Discussion.
And it has been properly seconded. Are there any questions or comments?
Discussion, Mr. President.
Discussion?
Thank you. Mr. President, what this is it's a grant which the purpose for it is to provide and combat youth gang activities throughout the city of Lawrence, and it will be coordinated with different institutions throughout the city of Lawrence, including the YMCA, YWCA, Boys and Girls Club, Lawrence Methuen Community Coalition, Arlington Community Trabajando, and Youth Build. What's important about this grant, it's again that it's a wide collaboration across the board with those different programs, and all of the Community Safety Initiative participants have agreed to match 25% of the grant that will be allocated. For the most part, everyone will be receiving $35,000 to be able to implement this program. And for that reason, I believe that this is something positive for our community, and I strongly support it.
Are there any other questions or remarks? If there is none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Continue, Mr. Chairman, with document 1215.
Thank you, Mr. President. Document 1215 is an appropriation transfer from Public Health Operating Supplies on the amount of $1,000 to Building Division Employment Training for the same $1,000. And it had been placed on the agenda by Mr. Mark Iannello, and he came up from the subcommittee meeting with a favorable recommendation. I would like to make that in form of a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion has been made and properly second. Questions or comments? Please brief. Yes.
Through you, Counselor, where is this, Vasquez, where is this $1,000? Can you just say what the training's about?
The $1,000 will be coming from the Public Health and Operating Supplies to the Building Division employee training. So basically what happened is that there's another employee, based on the explanation that was presented to us, that will require additional training, and there's sufficient money under the Public Health portion of the budget, and he has, there's a request to transfer it to be able to cover the expenditure for the training purposes.
Any other comments? Okay, if there are no other comments, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The ayes have it. Continue with document 1315.
Thank you, Mr. President. Document 1315 is an appropriation transfer from fire alarms, from salaries permanent on the amount of $15,957.66 to repairs and maintenance on the same amount. And it was also placed on the agenda by Mr. Mark Iannello. He came up from the subcommittee meeting with a favorable recommendation. I would like to make that as form of a motion to approve.
Motion has been made and properly
Discussion?
second. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question for Mr. Iannello.
Mr. Iannello, are you here? Will you come forward, please?
Good evening.
Were you, I had the impression that we had the fire alarm position posted, and I asked to get some clarification on that, so I would like to know if Mr. Iannello got that information.
The information I think you requested was there enough money in the budget to pay for another position and still make this transfer? So the budget had a total of, there's $189,510 in the budget for the fire alarm, and their payroll through 14 pay periods, and then estimating the additional 12 pay periods remaining in the fiscal year would come to a total of projected payroll through June 30th to be $140,000, leaving $48,643 available. This position, or this transfer is expected to, I'm sorry, it's not 48,000 available in the budget, it's 48,000 available in the budget without the new hire. Then the new hire, which I think you asked me for, was expected to be 24,461, leaving a balance of 24,181 in the account after making this transfer. More than enough to cover the 15,000 transfer that the chief is looking to pay some fire alarm bills.
Okay, so my question is again, was the position posted or not?
I you have to ask the fire chief. Excuse me.
Yes, please.
I think he would know whether it was posted. I think there was an expectation to fill it pretty soon.
Yes, the position was posted, and I just got the email tonight from Frank Burnett. It has been filled.
Okay, do we have enough money to pay that position?
Yeah, yes.
The rest of the,
That's what I just went through. There's 12 pay periods remaining. So if he's hired today, there's enough money to pay him through June 30th.
all
And
right.
still allow for this
Can
transfer.
you clarify the position? What was the position?
It's the second electrician.
The second electrician.
Yeah.
Are there any other positions that are currently posted?
Supervisor of apparatus is also posted.
Okay. Are we expecting any others to be posted?
Are we expecting any others to be
Yes.
posted? Not that I'm aware of, not right now.
Okay. Do we have the money for the position that we posted?
For the electrician, yes, and also for the supervisor of apparatus, yes.
The supervisor of apparatus, is that position vacant now, or?
No,
Yeah.
there's an actor in it, and there's an additional mechanical position posted because the supervisor of apparatus moved.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Mr. Toomey?
Yes. Mr. Arnall?
Oh, you're not getting off.
Sure.
We just approved a $2.5 million loan, part of which is going to be spent in repairing some of the fire department's buildings. Would this fall under that category?
I'm
Could
not
it- could it
familiar
fall
with
under
what
that
these repairs were for. I think the chief could best speak to them, but there were, I think he submitted copies of the invoices with it. These are basically, there was something hit by lightning, a fire alarm receiver decoder. It's a piece of equipment, so that would not be something covered by the loan authorization. Those are more capital improvements. And the other, I'm not sure what the second bill was for fire alarm circuits.
I would not cover it then.
But
That's
those are
$2.5
not, those are, I don't believe these would be capital improvements. I think they're just repairs to equipment.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other questions, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The ayes have it. Mr. Chairman of the Housing Committee, document 35014.
Thank you, Council President. Document 314 is the disposition of 5355 Basswood Street, which is on the assessor's map of 172, lot 133. This is the sale of the city-owned property to K-Pro Properties in the amount of $40,000 with the attached conditions of sale. And I make that in the form of a motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any questions? If there is none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The ayes have it. Continue with document 36614. Just before you continue, that, on document 35014, who does that property is going to?
K-Pro?
K-Pro? K-Pro Properties, okay, thank you. Continue.
I don't see in here the committee report, but I do believe it was unanimous vote to send it to the council with a favorable recommendation. This is
Here,
property
here,
number 5 and 7. Thanks, I'll take that. 511.
Okay.
That's a declared surplus. 5 through 7 Elizabeth Street, which is tax map 187, lot 50, for the sum of $2,052 with the conditions therein. I make that in the form of a motion.
Motion has been made and properly second to approve the disposition of 5-7 Elizabeth Street.
I'm going to make sure, I'm sorry, Yolanda Ortiz is the name of the applicant.
Okay, and it has been properly second. Any questions? If there is none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Chairman of the Housing Committee, there is a withdrawal with document 8809.
Sure, I'll make a motion to withdraw document 18809.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made to withdraw document 18809, and it has been properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Chair of the Ordinance Committee, document 35914.
Thank you, Council President. At the meeting, the council has unanimously recommended to withdraw document 359-14. The officer had recommended that we make it no parking, which can be put up without changing the ordinances based on the size of the street. So we don't need an ordinance, so we're just going to withdraw the document.
So,
Motion to withdraw.
okay, there's a motion on the floor?
I'll second it, but just discussion. So the sign could just go up at any day. I can go over there and be like, tomorrow I need that sign up, and it'll go up.
Yes, just as a point of information, the state already has, a law, so you don't need
Okay.
an additional.
Oh, all right, okay.
Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Just on that,
Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
I apologize, that Officer Scanlon gave us a detailed memo. It's not in our packages, but, but it would have explained it better for you, so I apologize. But he did give us legitimate
Yes, he did.
reasons under
Yes.
state law that you can just have those signs put up tomorrow, yeah.
Okay. Madam Chair of the Ordinance Committee, document 39814.
Thank you, Council President. Document number 398-14 was a private livery license that we did vote on at a prior meeting. This is a company called High Class Transportation. On our agendas, it says 296 Broadway. They did file change of address documents to be at 105B Essex Street. I know Officer Flores is here. There's actually a couple different sets of questions, and I think the office is here to help us just get a better grasp of it. This is a kind of a different, almost like a hybrid between the currently what we use as a livery system and the medallion system. And the suggestion was to try this out as a model to see if it worked. If it doesn't work, we don't have to renew it. And if it doesn't work, we could even revoke it. But because it has some uniqueness to it, a couple things were raised. One was with the different addresses, we really need that sign-off sheet redone because the sign-off sheet was done for 296 Broadway. We need it redone for 105B Essex Street. Similarly, the officer talked about off-street parking to me one-on-one, but I just want him to explain that to you guys because I know a couple people have looked and didn't see the off-street parking. So just, and any other questions you had about the situation, Officer Flores was kind enough to come back down for us.
Officer Flores?
Councilors, I was on vacation when this occurred, but I got back, I got the proper paperwork from the inspectional services. They did change their location from 296 Broadway to 105B Essex Street, and they also have off-street parking for their vehicles.
Can you just explain to us where the off-street parking is? Because one of the councils...
Right to the side of the building.
Just to the side of the
Right
building?
adjacent to their building.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. Just very quickly, we had talked about in the ordinance committee how this would be a new model that would provide sort of a more expensive type of ride, but it would take you directly to where you want to go, and it's only one customer at a time, and they need to call in, but they cannot pick up people in the streets and stuff. And I just wanted to make sure that people understand fully when my partner in Councilor Burnell speaks of the hybrid situation. And I'm 100%, in favor of trying it. Like she said, we always have the ability to retrieve the license or even disprove it for renewal if we're not happy with it. But you presented some very strong arguments during the ordinance committee and the owners as to why we should give it a try. So I wanted just to thank you for keeping an eye on that.
You're welcome.
All right, and I'm sorry, Council President, you might get frustrated, but
No,
I
I'm
was
not
voted
frustrated at
in
all.
to given the privilege.
Councilor Aquino.
Thank you. I have a question. The first address that we had, it was very close to my house, so I was very familiar with the area. And I asked Councilor Bernard to take it back in order for us to verify it. It's a restaurant address. And my concern is that they use an address in order for them to have the business. The location that they provide today, it's a huge building, it's a huge location. I want to know if they're going to be
Which location is that, Councilor?
105 Essex Street?
I believe there's like 3 businesses
Yeah.
in that building.
And they are the same site as a grocery store, a supermarket store. So,
I believe that's on a little further down.
no, it's right next to it. It's a market. I Googled it today.
I think it's a
Right now.
vitamin shop.
Where is this?
It's 105 Essex Street.
It's
But my
105B.
point, yeah, my point is, do we know if they have, if they're gonna incorporate to another business, or it's,
It's a separate business.
Okay.
I've been to the location.
all right, because I think we
And
should,
the only way they can get their license, the inspectional services do go and inspect the location.
okay, I just wanna make sure that we have the right information because of the changes of
Appreciate you.
addresses.
Thank you.
Yeah, it happened before.
Councilor Reyes.
It happened before.
Just referring what Councilor Aquino was saying, when they provide you an address, you go and just, supervise it and check to make sure that what they say is the real document that you're gonna be.
Yes, I do, and also inspectional services, they do an inspection of the premises, and they're the ones that give the okay on the location. If there's a problem with the location, they will contact me.
No, the reason that I'm asking is because I never heard that, but since she, brought out that, is a big concern, and just to make sure that the people is not using business address just to incorporate another business and, just kind of go with one.
I understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
And my last question, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My last question would be, the first time that they provide with a certificate from the city hall, it used to have the other address. So they went to another, they were combining two businesses in one. So this is a concern because they did it once. We need to make sure that the second address that they provide, even though they have the inspectional service information, it's a huge place for them. I want to know if they're going to have any other type of business within their business.
Well, I believe Officer Flores indicated that there are several businesses
No,
in that
well,
area. They're gonna be
I think,
using only-
Counselor, I believe your concern is there's going to be another business in the same location that they're in?
Yes, if they just using
Right
the
now,
address.
as I walked in, all there is a sitting lobby in the office.
So that I'm saying, that it's a huge
There is.
space for them.
Yes, it is. I understand
Okay.
what you're saying.
All right. That's my concern.
And if that occurs, they will still have to come to inspectional services.
I seen multiple businesses operating in one location. I seen them. So in order for us, this is something that we are trying now. In order for them to make sure that our eyes are on them, they have to do things right. And if we find things that are not,
Well,
it's fishy.
I've
We
had a
have-
conversation with the owner, and they're under a microscope right now. So, I mean, they're being monitored right now, closely.
Officer Flores, how often do you, when we approve businesses like this, how often do you go back to make sure that they are abiding by the requirements?
As often as I can.
Okay.
It's only, unfortunately, it's only myself.
No, I understand that, but you do
But
go
I
back.
do, I always do stop at all the
Okay.
livery business and taxis.
Councilor Aquino, since he goes back, he will be able to determine whether an additional business has been
Yes.
added to that particular location.
Yeah, and saying that, the sign-off sheet that he was provided, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't that they said the wrong address.
Motion to go past 10.
There's a motion on the floor to go beyond 10. It has been properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So it wasn't a mistake, an address mistake. They went to the different departments and they got the sign-off sheets. It's something that really concerns me. Like, we need to make sure that doesn't happen again with a restaurant address.
Thank you. Okay, let's take a vote. Unless you have any questions for,
No, I would like to table in order for us to get the right information, and then we vote for it.
it was not approved by this, it was tabled, right? Was it? Oh, we voted to approve?
Yes.
So I guess the point at this time is maybe if we make a motion to seek that the applicant refile their sign-off for the taxes, water, and inspectional at the appropriate address of 105B Essex Street.
Okay, you want to make that as a form of a motion?
I make that in the form of a motion, yeah.
Okay, there's a motion.
And can we admit,
Amendment?
yes, to make sure that he's not combined with another business in order for him to provide with this information?
The only thing, I understand exactly what you're saying. I think you raise an excellent point, and I think the fact that, that they filed the form for 296 Broadway is concerning, because if they weren't operating out of that location, why did they file paperwork at that location? I absolutely agree with that analysis, and I think you saw something big that was good. With regard to 105B Essex Street, I'm not familiar with the building. My only thought is if it's really that big, and their landlord decides to subdivide it up so that 105B, and then all of a sudden they're Suite 1, and then he puts a second business in behind them, an insurance company or something else, they can do that, though, can't they?
No, that's the point. It had happened before,
Yeah.
And they cannot do that. It have to be open, the location inside, because there's only one door going in, and I guess it's an exit door going on the back. But unless it's divided,
Yeah.
they cannot share.
Yeah.
Within
But if
one.
they do divide it up or something, yeah.
Yes, if they divide it, but
Yeah.
even though if they divide it, if it's inside, they have to have an exit and an entrance.
Right, right,
So
right.
it's not gonna be able,
Yeah.
and I wanna make sure that they know that, because this is a tryout. If it doesn't work with them, maybe a good opportunity for many other people that wanna do it right, that door is gonna be closed for them.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor that the applicants
Mr.
refile, I'm sorry,
I'd like
did
to
you-
see if I could make an amendment, suggest an amendment.
Go ahead.
Put a stop to the prior approval until the paperwork is filed.
Well, has the 30 days lapsed? I know we specifically didn't waive the 30 days.
It's over.
So they currently do have the license, so we're
The
requesting.
30 days would have expired.
Oh.
So my suggestion is that we're requesting, the motion right now, as it stands, is that we gather the information, but what if it takes,
Yeah. Well,
5 months to get it? I think that
No,
we
they are-
should.
they have been asked, the motion is to ask them to refile.
Can I ask you a
So they have to
question?
do that right away.
When did we vote? Was that in December?
16.
Thank you, I'm sorry, that's what I didn't know, okay.
December 15?
16.
16, so we, yes,
But it was with the old address,
yes.
so they have to come back and
Right.
refile? Okay. That will
They
give
do?
us enough time to get the information then.
Yeah, I mean, through the officer, you can notify them, they can come in and file paperwork that we have. Can do that tomorrow.
So we need to vote on the next
They
meeting?
have to come back.
Perfect, okay,
All
perfect.
right, yeah, that works.
Yeah. No, done, we're happy with them.
That's it?
Point of clarity,
That's gonna take place now.
just for
ahead.
clarity,
Go ahead.
on the filing of the address, if you have a company that's already been approved.
Right.
And they move into a new area, they have to come in and change the address, right?
They start with the
With
police
the-
officer,
They go back to the
Taxes are
step one?
different.
back to council.
Taxes and
that I
liveries
didn't
have to go, yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I have to point this out. I have to point this out.
Go ahead.
The old address, they did have a inspectional service certificate.
Okay.
So it was wrong. It was a restaurant. So that really means nothing to me.
I think what they were intending to have the location somewhere else, and they changed the location. So let's have them
But they have an
refile.
inspectional service
I
certificate, like
understand that.
saying that it was okay for them to have a restaurant and
Okay. Again, there's a motion on the floor to have them refile. It will come back to the full council for approval, and we can ask whatever questions we need to ask at that time, okay?
Yeah.
So let's take a vote. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, are there any matters that you would like to take out of the table matters?
Yes,
Are
Mr.
there any
President.
items? Yes.
Docket number 395/14, I'd like to make.
I'm sorry?
Docket number 39514. I'd like to take
There's a motion on the floor to take document 39514 out of table matters. Is there a second? There's no second, Mr. Toomey.
There was a motion, there was a request to take 39514 out of the table items.
Document 39514. Is there a second? If there's no second, the motion dies. Are there any other matters, out of table matters that you would like to take? If there's none, councilors, let me remind you that our Secretary Lillian asked you to submit your preference in terms of when we're going to take the training for the tablet. If you don't give her that information, I'm going to ask you to set up a specific time. She sent that about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Okay, so if you don't give her your preference, what's going to happen is that I'm going to ask her to assign a specific time and date, and then we will go ahead and get the training. Okay, so I beg of you, please give Lillian the information so that she can schedule the tablet training. Okay? Thank you. Councilors, there are only 3 new businesses that I'm going to refer to committees. Document 1715, request to pay fiscal year 2013 invoices. That's going to the Budget and Finance Committee. The 15 minutes parking, document 1815, is going to go to the Ordinance Committee. Document 1915, National Grid petition, is going to go to the Ordinance Committee.
Council President, I have 2 items.
I'm sorry?
I have 2 items I was hoping to add.
Yes.
No meeting tomorrow.
Councils, I was hoping to get a motion to suspend the rules. I had 2 items I was hoping to add to the agenda.
Will you make the motion?
I make a motion to suspend the rules.
There's a motion to suspend the rule. It has been properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The ayes have it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. I had 2 items. One is the Wild Rover Road Race to support the Barry Cara Foundation. It's at the Clatta Pub on Sunday, March 1st at 11 a.m. It was requested by Jay Karamatopoulos. I'm going to have that added to the agenda as an item of new business.
Document 2115, I'm going to refer that to the Ordinance Committee.
Thank you, Council President.
Go ahead.
Similarly, there is a request for a rally to support the Lawrence Police and First Responders be held on the Campagnon Common on Saturday, February 7th from 11 a.m. to noon. That was requested to be put on the agenda by a Frank Cantwell.
Motion has been made, well, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm simply adding. So document 2215 is going to the Ordinance Committee also. Okay, are there any other new?
We tabled this last week because of because of the deal with the vote of no confidence.
Yeah.
It's a really
Motion to adjourn.
So they're here tonight.
Oh, you want to do that?
Yeah, we get.
Okay. You want to make a motion to take that matter?
I'd like to take document number 16509 off the table.
Motion to take document 169 what?
16509 off.
16509 off the table.
Council, you may.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Go
Council,
ahead.
you may recall last week, because of all the stuff that was floating around, we had some people, we said, it's gonna be a crazy night. Don't bother showing up last Tuesday, show up tonight. They're here. So, document number 16509 is a disposition of 15 Canton Street. It is a yard sale. It was sent up to the full council with favorable recommendation. The price is $2,315 to Lorenzo De La Cruz, with the conditions that are attached, to make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second to sell 15 Canton Street to Lorenzo De La Cruz in the amount of $2,315. Let's take a vote unless there's any questions. None? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? The ayes have it.
And no, one more.
One more. Hold on.
I can take document 38814 off the table.
There's a motion to take document 38814. It has been properly seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Go ahead.
The Housing Committee, and I'm gonna need your help, for the number.
Just a surplus declaration.
Oh, it's a surplus declaration?
That's
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll make a motion, I'm sorry, the Housing Committee voted by unanimous vote to send up document number 268, 270 Water Street to the full council with a favorable recommendation to declare that property as surplus. Make that in the form of a motion.
Thank you.
Motion has been made and properly second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Now, this is going to be referred to the Housing Committee again,
Yes.
After.
okay? Yes. Are there any other items, Mr. Plant? No, sir. There was a motion
To adjourn.
There's a motion on the floor to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, councilors.